Hey, 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 hey. Hello, 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 hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Listen, let me get my stuff together. We are here today. We're a few hours behind because it was purposeful, because I wanted to try to move in real time. Yesterday, though I enjoy all of you in here, I just didn't like all the breaks and the times and the pausings that we've done. So, what I wanted to do was to be able to be on here with you all and kind of go over the information as we need to go over it. Let me pull up all my stuff. And as you all come in, please make sure you all hit that like button. Please and thank you. And if you like what you see, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate that as well. All right. So today we see that a couple of things happen. Daniel Phillip has continued his testimony, and from what I understand, with all the buzz and buzz and buzz and buzz, it looks like Cassie has entered the building. And so what I wanted to do is go back over here. I'm trying to pull up all my people, so I was giving you all enough time to kind of flood in. And make sure you leave a like, a like. I'm going to pull up everything in just one moment. I just want to make sure I'm getting everything. All right. All right. So what I have pulled up today, I have CNN, I have Inner City Press, and let me see if I can still get the New York Times on my phone. And then once we get that, we will go over what's going on. Today is May 13th. Okay. Because New York Times is funny, because some days you can get on New York Times without paying, and then sometimes you have to get on there. And I am not seeing, all I'm seeing is yesterday. So it looks like we may just have, let me see. Hmm. Yeah, so I've missed it. So we just have on the computer, which is fine. We're good. We're good. All right. And I would love to see some engagement with y'all. So make sure you all are engaging with me, either asking questions or giving me comments or whatever it is that's out here. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. So we'll be going back and forth between CNN and Inner City Press. So let's go to Inner City Press. Let's just share that one first. So basically, this morning, it looks as if the judge is making sure that the judge is making sure that his courtroom is efficient, and he's making sure that the prosecution and the defense use their time wisely. And we are getting ready to get into it. Uh, they're having a hearing about evidence coming into the case. And I'm wondering, does that have to do with the exhibits that they were arguing about or talking about yesterday and also talking about on Friday? Uh, I see here is as they were talking, they were saying we just wouldn't show the videos to the courtroom gallery, and the jurors and everyone in the well would wear headphones. These materials are sexually explicit or involve nudity. I'm glad to hear that. I am so glad to hear that the judge is real cognizant of this, because let's just be clear, even though we want to see this case and even though we want to hear a thing, there are some of us, and we have to acknowledge, that think that they're about to witness uh these two going at it and going with it, and it's going to be all in open court. um but I'm glad to know that the freak off videos are going to be, because I knew that the public wasn't going to be able to see these videos. But I wasn't sure about were they going to be able to hear what was going on in those videos, and it looks like possibly not. So Combs's defense is saying this is adult pornography. That's what this is. So it's narrowly tailored. Our application is only that the visual images and the audio is within the ambit of the sealing order. We could ask questions tastefully. What would the New York Times or what would the Wall Street Journal do with this? Sometimes things get unsealed and published, and so possibly it sounds like the news media is wanting these things unpublished for so that they can publish it, whatever. But I think in some trials they wait, they have like a gag order, or they hold the stuff sealed until after the end of the trial. Says here, judge, on the two incidents with Ms. Ventura, when we discussed the last week, the assault in Connecticut, messages between Ms. Ventura and Mr. Combe is relevant. Judge, let's see if there's any issue. The prosecution is saying that they want that to be excluded. Now, this is interesting. So there was an assault that Cassie was involved in Connecticut, y'all. Interesting. So Tini Garrigo says that he suspected that she was cheating on him. She did not answer her phone. She got into a bar fight and tried to kill someone. Wait a minute. What? So it's relevant to his suspicions. I wonder when this happened. She was taking drugs while close with her family in another state. Judge, I overruled the government's objection. This can be asked about. Now, prior consistent statements. We're talking about the sequencing issues. Are they on direct or in rebuttal? The prosecution says in their opening, they said that Miss Ventura made her own choices. They asked who really had control in this relationship, clearly begging the answer that it was Miss Ventura. Exhibit B315, the threat to release the sex tape, they said only she had it. Now, in regards to that, because if we go back to the lawsuit and the complaint, she did say had a little paragraph, couple of paragraphs where she mentioned that when she tried to leave, or there was some situation, and she thought that she had erased some things, and things were not erased, or he had it forwarded to his phone, and he had it, and he would give it back to her. It was some kind of statement in regards to that. So this is interesting. Judge, but the standard has not yet been reached as to B332 and B339. Okay, get Mr. Phillips in the witness box, then bring in the jury. Combs, exhibit. So to continue, you returned to Gramercy. So they brought back Mr. Phillips on the thing because we ended with him yesterday evening. So I'm hoping that we're not on him too long. All right, here we go. All rise. Mr. Donaldson, who is Diddy's attorney, says, so to continue, you return to the Gramercy Hotel. The male dancer, Philip, yes. While you and Miss Cassie Ventura were having sex for hours, Miss Ventura took the lead. Philip, no. Donaldson, you took the lead. Phillips, we were equally doing our thing. There wasn't a leader. Donaldson, you decided together? Yes. This is what the defense is trying to get to them to say, that it wasn't Mr. Combs wasn't over here doing everything or making her do these things. The defense is trying to set up that she was an active participant in these freak offs. But let's continue. Combs. Donaldson. Fair to say that she was in complete control of everything she was doing. The male dancer says, I can't say that. Mr. Donaldson, you did not wear a condom? He says, I did not. Donaldson, your boss told you Miss Cassie Ventura paid for the hotel? He reiterated, yes. She paid with her credit card. The male dancer says, I have nothing to do with that. She used her card to pay for the dancer. Donaldson, okay. That assault at her apartment on 11th Avenue. Phillips, I believe it was Weston Avenue. So the attorney says, you claim Mr. Combs told her to come over, and she said she had her personal information on the computer. So wait a minute. And he threw a bottle at her. Phillips, correct. Donaldson, he came out and says, are you ready? Phillips, are you guys ready? Okay. Donaldson, isn't it true Mr. Combs told you, yo, man, I'm going to have to deal with this. You need to get the F out. The dancer said that's not correct. And Donaldson said, in 2023, didn't you tell the prosecutor? He said, yo, the prosecution objection, not in evidence. Judge sustained it, so he won't be able to say that. The judge, you can only use it to try to refresh his recollection. So he says, read it yourself. Does it refresh you? Male dancer, I do not remember saying that. What I'm reading here, get the F out. The prosecution says objection. The judge says disregard that. And then the Diddy's lawyers asked, did you date a model named Malia? Male dancer said, Malia and I didn't say I dated her. We were friends. Donaldson, you were with her and saw Cassie with someone, not Mr. Combs. Phillips, yes. Donaldson, you told Malia you saw Cassie socially. Male dancer says yes. Which I would say either. I wouldn't want everybody to know I was being paid to be a ex worker. What is they talking about? Oh, the way we were set up as a society. Male dancer Phillips, yes. Donaldson, you thought Cassie wanted to see you one-on-one, nothing to do with Sean Combs, right? Phillips, I don't see what you mean. That was just a yes or no. In front of the dream team. That's what you thought. Philip, no. Mr. Donaldson said, you only saw her inebriated one time. He says, Philip says, I saw her passed out on the couch. Mr. Combs told me, I don't think it's going to happen today. Donaldson, the time with the other male, you rotated. Philip's not correct. You watched? Yes. So there was another man, it looks like that they were involved in, and I'm probably missing some things because some of these things I've noticed that if I click it, there's a little bit more information here. Yeah. And that's what's interesting, but I don't begrudge him. It's just that we've got to be I have to be very careful to look at this. I don't want to think I missed anything up here. Let me go back. Let me go back because okay, I didn't say I dated her. We were friends. And so let's go here because I'm quite sure. Yes. You thought Cassie wanted to see you one-on-one. Phillips, I don't see what you mean. In front of the Dream Hotel, that's what you thought. Phillips, no. Come, Donaldson, you saw her inebriated one time. He responds that he saw her passed out on the couch, and and Diddy told him, I don't think it's going to happen today. Donaldson said the time with the other male, you rotated, and Mr. Phillips says no. So apparently there were at that time they were hiring multiple workers to perform. All right. Not correct. You said Mr. Combs was directing, but did you recall meeting the prosecutors on March 28th, 2025, and telling them that you did not recall Mr. Combs giving direction about positions? Phillips, yes. Give me one moment, y'all. Got to take this call. Sorry about that, y'all. You know, when my mama call, I got to take the call. Hey, Blue. Hey, Blue. We just going back over this information. So let me continue. Again, I apologize, but when my mama calls, I got to take her call. All right, here we are. You said Mr. Combs was directing, but do you recall meeting the prosecutors on March 28th, 2025, and telling them you didn't recall Mr. Combs giving directions about position? And he says yes. He says, so he didn't direct? Philip says incorrect. Okay, let me click here. Well, it goes back to the same thing. So he says here, Donaldson, you thought you were in a relationship with Cassie, didn't you? And the Phillips and male dancer says no, because there's always a disconnect, and that's probably because of the fact that he's having to type all of this, and so some things that he will miss, and we'll give them grace. We will go back through CNN and see what they say, but we're going to try to get through at least his testimony, and then we're going to come back. Donaldson, did you not tell them that Mr. Combs would tell you it's my turn? And the prosecution objected to that and asked to have a sidebar. They had a sidebar. Um, they come back. Donaldson asks, didn't you tell the government that you feel jealous because you liked Miss Ventura romantically? Philip says, I do not recall that. And so Donaldson says, pulled up 3570. The attorney for the Fed says, just for the parties. Phillips, I do not recall that. Donaldson, nothing further. So the judge asks, is there a redirect? And the prosecution asks, please explain why you say now Mr. Combs directed you. Phillips says, he asked about positions, but Mr. Combs did tell us what to do, use baby oil. Oh, the timing of the handing of cash. How did the amount compare to your stripping services? Phillips said it was $3,800 more. The prosecution asked, how much were you paid to perform when you could? Phillips, $700 or $6,000. Ooh, that's a big jump. And when you could not perform, he says that they paid him nothing. And they said that Miss Ventura called you after the Dream Hotel? And he says, yes. Do you know who she was with? He said, no. Did she answer your text message? Never, almost. You said you wanted to hug her. Why? I could see she was afraid. What did you do? I could not engage. I was messed up. And I apologize that my sinuses are draining, and I'd rather them drain forward than backwards. So in the Gramercy, what did Mr. Combs say to you? This is the prosecution and the redirect. Philip said he said it's time for you to go. Prosecution in the Gramercy Hotel. Who was in the room? He said that Mr. Combs, myself, and Cassie. When she appeared to enjoy herself, was Mr. Combs always in the room? He says yes. Was it the same man who called her? Was that the same man who called her a bee and beat her? Phyllis, I did not see the beating, I presume. Donaldson says objection. The judge says sustained. You heard slapping? Yes. The prosecution says nothing further. The judge wants to know if they want to recross. He says briefly. He asks him, this document, do you see where you said I'm on the Upper West Side? She says, 10 Weston Avenues. Hit me when you're there. Phillips, yes. Do you see your text? Don't give a fuck. I'm a little tipsy. I love you, N-word. He says yes. Donaldson, and that was after the beating. And Phillips says yes. And Donaldson says nothing further. And then they redirect. The prosecution asked him why did he write that. He says, I wanted them to see I had no problem with what he had done. It kept it going. And the prosecution says no further questions. There was what they wanted a sidebar before the next witness. They have a sidebar. The judge wants the jurors to take a break. We have some issues to deal with. The issues leave. Combs' attorney, that Miss Estevo, we'd like Miss Ventura's husband not to be allowed in the courtroom during her testimony. We may need to recall him as a witness later, depending on the direct. The prosecution says, I'm not sure how Mr. Fine's testimony would be relevant. The judge says, Miss Garagos, she says, give me 15 seconds. If he wants to come in to the courtroom today, but we ask that he be excluded when the testimony gets into post 2018. Prosecution says, in my initial examination, I will ask about post 2018, but only about devices. Judge Miss Garagos, that's okay, Judge. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Let's see. So, wow, we got to Cassie quick. So let's, I didn't think we were going to get to her that quick. So let's go. So it says here, the judge allows messages from between Combs and Ventura to be brought up. Defense attorney Annie Estavo told the court that they intend to bring up messages between Sean Diddy Combs and Cassie Ventura when she was out of state, and he was concerned that she was cheating on him. She told him she hadn't responded because she had gotten into a bar fight. So we're going to hear those texts. Estavo said the incident demonstrates that Ventura had a substance abuse issue independently of her relationship with Combs. Now, as I recall, in her lawsuit, she says that he was the first person that introduced her to the drugs. The judge overruled prosecutors, and that the texts are coming in. So we have Daniel Phillips back on the stand. Defense attorney Xavier Donaldson asked Daniel Phillips again about the first day he had sex with Cassie Ventura in front of Sean Diddy Combs. Not longer had he left the hotel room following their first encounter. Ventura called him to ask him if he'd come back the same day. Phillips said he agreed to return to the hotel at the Gramercy Park Hotel, where he and Ventura again had sex for a few hours. When asked, Phillips testified that Combs did not direct him and Ventura as to how they should have sex that day. Ventura also appeared sober, Phillips testified. He said he didn't see her drink alcohol or take drugs while he was with the couple. When Donaldson asked if Ventura seemed in complete control of everything she was doing during that encounter, Phillips testified that he could not say. They asked him, did he witness the assault on Ventura? And Phillips confirmed that he went to Ventura's apartment after she sent him her address and they had sex before the assault. He confirmed that she did not appear to be under the influence at the time. Phillips said Monday that after the assault, Combs pushed Phillips and Ventura to continue to have sex. Donaldson challenged Phillips' trial testimony with a report from a previous law enforcement interview that he gave in 2023. So that's when they were bringing out the text. So he was, because again, he probably used words and wording that he's not using now, and he wants him to be consistent about that. That's why it's so much better to, if you don't know, you don't know. Don't put 20 on 10. Don't well, I know that he did this. Did you see it? No, I didn't see it. Did you hear anything? I heard some slaps. Okay, so you heard the slap. So that indicates to you that something was being hit. You didn't see who was being hit, but that indicated to you that something was going on. That those types of things. So when you're testifying, it's very important not to put 20 on 10. It's your job to tell what you see, what you heard, and any other commentary is not necessary. You're going to get objected to all day long. Donaldson challenged Phillip's trial testimony with the report from a pre. Okay, when he told investigators that told him, "Yo, man, I'm going to need to deal with this. You need to get the fuck out." And this on the stand, Phillip said he did not recall telling the investigators that. Defense attorneys asked Phillips to confirm parts of his testimony from yesterday. Defense attorney Xavier is now reviewing parts of Daniel Phillip's testimony from yesterday with prosecutors questioning him. We're not hearing any new information as Donaldson has asked Phillips to confirm details he had already said on the stands yesterday. And again, I think it's Diddy's defense attorneys are trying to set up the fact that Cassie was a willing participant. She wasn't under the influence of drugs. She wasn't under the influence of alcohol. So she was quite as sober as she could be during these participations. And maybe that's why he was asking him about a relationship or something like that. Daniel Phillips, the male review manager, has wrapped up his testimonies on redirect examination. Prosecutor Maureen Comey asked Phillips to recount his recollection of the moments after he watched Sean Diddy Combs drag Cassie Ventura into a bedroom and then heard what he believes to be Combs beating Ventura. He said he experienced erectile dysfunction. No, because he was shook by the altercation. Guys, wow. I was completely shocked and messed up in my head. There was nothing I could do, he said. She was afraid. I could see that she was afraid. I mean, you could have popped his ass. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The next witness has been called. The parties are at a sidebar. The next witness has been called. The court is taking a short break. Combs' defense attorney wants to bar her husband. This is Alex Fine. Now, if you're not familiar with Alex Fine, if Alex Fine was Diddy's, you remember that time Diddy had gained all this weight? And I think that this was around, maybe it was like 2013, 2011. It was a time period that Diddy had gained all this weight. And then he had hired Mr. Fine to come in and help him slim down. And he slimmed down a lot. But he not only lost the weight, he lost his let's continue. Garrigo said that Ventura's husband may be called in Combs' defense case if certain testimony comes up when Ventura takes the stand. Garrigo says the defense will not make an application to bar any other family members of Ventura from the courtroom for her testimony. She says Ventura's brother and mother are expected to be in the courtroom to support her. So they allowed for him to sit, and we heard that. Ventura's husband enters the courtroom. Cassie Ventura's husband, Alex Fine, just walked into the courtroom and sat next to Doug Wigdor, their attorney. Fine is staring at Combs, who just re-entered the courtroom and sat down at the defense table. Court is still on a short break, and the testimony is expected to resume soon. And now we are here where Cassie took the stand. All right. My gosh, my gosh, my God. I'm just kind of tingling. I see it and I don't want to really read it, but I see it. I'm telling you, there will be no peace if you do not take that call. And even if the call has nothing to do with anything, I still got to take that call, child. I still got to take that call. All right, people, are we ready? Are we ready for this? Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. All rise. So, Attorney Johnson for the prosecution, the government calls Cassandra Ventura. She takes the stand. She is extremely pregnant. From what I understood from watching other videos and people talking, she is about 8 months pregnant. So I'm hoping that they're treading as lightly as they can because of the fact we don't want her to go into premature labor. And says Johnson asked, "How old are you?" And Ventura said she's 38. And she said the prosecution asked what was her work. She says, "I was a musician and entertainer." And she said, "How long were you with Sean?" And she said, 10 years. She says, "Did you get into," the prosecution asked, "Did she get into arguments?" She says, "Yes, it will result in violence, dragging." "What else did he do?" He said, "He stomped me in the head if I was down." Cheer. Jesus. And I don't know if one of the things that I think that I have spoken about, one of the things that I think is disrespectful. The very first thing that I think is disrespectful for somebody to do, let me get bigger so that y'all can really see my face. One of the things I think is very disrespectful for anybody to do is to spit on you. When they purposely spit on you, where they've got to hawk something up and chew it right out at you. That is very disrespectful. And even when you look at it on a certain type of level, with all the bacteria and things that people harbor in their mouth, and even with just the fact that you think that it's okay to spit on somebody, that's another thing. But another thing that's disrespectful is to kick somebody when they're down, and particularly when you kick them in their head. And the third thing that's disrespectful is for you to put your hands around my neck. And I know some of you all like that kind of play sexually, but that is very disrespectful, in my opinion. You don't have to do all of that. And for those that you all that believe that seeing somebody in pain while you're in a very intimate moment sexually, I, you know, I'm side eyeing you. And those are my morals and values. They don't reflect what you all believe, but it doesn't mean that I think that there is something. I'm just side eyeing. I'm just like, okay, all right. Don't tell me that. That's why I don't engage in conversations like that with people that I don't know, ladies. I don't tell them what I like and what I dislike, because we haven't gotten to an intimate relationship, an intimate level for you to understand or know any of that information. So any man that asks you that question and you just met them, and just because they bought you a meal and you're sitting out before them and they ask you all these types of questions, you're not obligated to answer them. Now, if they feel like you're supposed to answer them, this is why it's so important, ladies, to make sure that you, when you're going out on dates and you're going out these things like that, you have your own money in your pocket. So once you feel like you're inconvenienced, or what you say is not being taken in consideration, you can leave. And you don't have to leave with the person that brought you. But anyway, let's continue. And guys, when you don't feel like someone is respecting who you are and what you do and where you take them out to eat and all this other stuff, if you know that you have a salary with $30,000 and you're going to Chili's, and she tells you she wants you to take her to a 5-star restaurant that the lowest meal is $500, you don't have to take her out. Because again, I ask for you all to get outside, put your feet in some grass, take a deep breath, and get out here in the real world. All right. So she said he would stomp me in the head if I was down. And the prosecution, how frequently was he violent? Ventura, too frequently. I would get black eyes and bruises. The prosecution, let me show you a video. So she showed her the hotel lobby video. She said, where is this? So Ventura explains that this is at the Intercontinental in Los Angeles. It was after freak off. The prosecution says, what does that entail? She says, Ventura, the hiring of an escort, setting it up. Prosecution, how did you feel when he first asked for it? Ventura, confused, nervous. I wanted to make him happy. Did you agree to one when he first proposed one? Ventura, yes. Then there were more. It wasn't something I wanted to do, at least not that frequently. Okay. So she admits that, she didn't want to do it, but then she did it, but she didn't want to do it all the time. So again, he's they're trying to paint the picture that not only is he violent, that he is excessive, he is addictive. And so again, when you hear me do these testimonies, I'm not on anybody's side. I'm just trying to figure out, because doing court, listening to court procedures, watching how the prosecution and the defense spar, I do understand there's somebody's life in the balance. However, I'm also aware of the way that in courtrooms, who win is the one who can capture your, because the jury is just regular people. and they're using their common senses and any types of senses that they have, their book sense, their real world experiences, all of those different things coupled with what the law says, and they're making a decision from that. And so the combatant, as I'm calling them, the prosecution and the defense, whoever makes the better argument that can go over, that doesn't go over the jury's head, is the one that usually wins. Ventura, I didn't know what no could turn into. And the prosecution asked her, what does she mean? And she says, making him angry. So she's basically describing that if he did not get his way, if you told him no and that's not what he wanted to hear, he could get upset. So the prosecution says, what were you afraid of happening if you said no? Ventura said, the time he had blackmail materials. Interesting. And what did you give the government? She says, laptops. Prosecution, I've handed up a GXB. Do you recognize it? She says, yes, I reviewed this drive. It has communications and documents pertaining to Mr. Combs. And it's, wait a minute. What kind of documents? Wait. Okay. Just, you saw me just perk up. What kind of documents, y'all? Okay. The prosecution, did you review photos on it? Ventura, yes. What's this photo? Me in 2004 with Carrie Morgan. Hold up. Okay. Let me finish. Okay. When did you sign with Bad Boy? Who is Carrie Morgan? Hold on. Okay, that's all it says. When did you sign with Bad Boy Records? Ventura, 2006. It was a 10 album deal. And y'all, those of you all that are in the music business, those of you all that are, is this normal? Because I remember artists back in the day, they could barely get record labels to sign them for 3 albums. A 10 album deal? Hey, Jay. So we did the testimony from the sex worker. They finished off his testimony. So right now we're reading the testimony of the former girlfriend of Sean Combs, Cassie Ventura. Now, Cassie Ventura, if you remember yesterday, I was reading from the lawsuit. She was the one that filed the initial lawsuit that kicked all of this off. So she is, quote unquote, the star witness. But yes, she is one of the victims. But y'all let me know, is this 10 album deal? Ooh. Oh, that is something serious. A 10 album deal? Come on. But y'all let me know if that's something that is industry standard. Did you release any after late 2006? She says no. Prosecution asks, who is in this photo? Ventura says, Ken Porter. She was Sean's ex from before me and the mother of his children. Let me make sure ain't nothing else. All right. Where did you celebrate your birthday in this photo? Ventura, in Las Vegas. Carrie Morgan was there too. We're out on his patio on my 21st birthday. The VMAs. Prosecution. What happened then? She says, Sean kissed me in the bathroom. I ran back to my hotel. I told Carrie. When did you get back to New York? Ventura. I'd visit him in the Trump Hotel in Columbus Circle. His apartment was being renovated. Prosecution. What were you going what were you going with your music career? Ventura, trying to come up with a concept. Sean called all the shots. What's the age difference between you and Sean? 17 years. How do you feel when Sean invited you to hotels? Ventura, nervous, excitement. We were going to talk about music. He introduced me to oral sex. I didn't understand it. Oh my. Oh my. Oh my. We got to read what CNN says, but oh my. Did you visit Sean in Miami? Ventura, yes. We went with Carrie Morgan and Dallas Austin. What did you and Sean do together? Ventura, sexual intercourse. He gave me blue dolphin ecstasy on a boat. Had you once before taken ecstasy unintentionally? She says, there's a yes. How did you take ecstasy unintentionally? It was in Gatorade. When you took it intentionally with Sean, how did it feel? Ventura, like rolling. At the time, what did you think? Ventura, that we were spending a lot of time together. Ventura, I thought we were monogamous. Was it made public? No. I was his artist, also his family, his children. Who was linked to him publicly? Kim Porter. How did Sean treat you at this time? She says, we had fun. Ah, because we know now. Let's stop here because this is getting into the gossip side of it. We understand that Kim Porter was in that space of where she was slightly fooling with Diddy. They were going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and I think around the time she had the twins, she moved to California. Y'all help me out with this. But her and Puff were not on the biggest of terms. And also, according now, this is alleged. Apparently, she was involved in the same things that Cassie was doing, the freak offs and things like that. That he and her they had been doing these types of freak offs and things like that. And also, it is rumored that Cassie and Kim Porter and Diddy did freak offs together, but we don't know if she's going to say anything like that. So let's continue. What was his lifestyle like? Ventura, he had all these assistants. He can get things done. He traveled quite a bit. What's this photo? And she shows her this photo and she says, Sean and I at a strip club in New York, like 2007, 2008, Halloween. And the prosecution asks, how did Sean moods vary? She says, day to day. When it swung, could you describe it? Ventura, it was anger zoning out. The prosecution asked, how did it impact you? Ventura, greatly. The next thing I knew, I was getting hit in the face. There was also psychological abuse. He'd tell me to watch my mouth, change my face. I remember, and this is just me sharing, and because I think this is going to get you to understand why I say this. I'm very wary about people that are asking you to smile and to change your face when they walk up. I remember going out with some friends, and we were in college together, and so these people they were in my dorm, and so we were going out. And where my college was, it was a small college town, so a lot of times they had like uh I think like the Western Sizzler was the biggest restaurant in that particular town, and that's where we went. And so there was a lot of like I said, it was a college town, so uh and it was the coming down this particular highway, you'd have to come down, go through this town in order to get to the next city. And everybody wanted to get to the next city. And so we were in there having dinner one day, one evening, because it was a Sunday. We were having dinner that Sunday evening, and we were sitting in there, and there was this man. Now, remember, I am a college student, maybe like just turning 19. Yeah, because it was just turning 19. We were sitting in here. Now, this was a man. This was a man. I believe he was a local. I don't know. I don't know what he was. We were sitting at the table. We're laughing and having a good time. And then there was like a period of time. You know how you're at this kind of lull, and that's just coming from when you're eating and when you're doing some things, and you kind of notice that people are watching you, and you may lock eyes with somebody, but you're not really paying attention to them. Well, I guess he thought that, me scanning my eyes or anything like that. There was a period of time, according to what he was trying to explain to me, was that I was smiling and then I stopped smiling, and me stopped smiling, and I was appeared to look at him, prompted him to get up and come to our table. And in a way, first he's like being pleasant, and then he turns to me and says, because I'm still not smiling at this point. I'm just look, how you just look because I don't know who this person is. You're looking and scanning the situation. And he turns to look at me and he's like, I'm pissing him off because I'm smiling at all the other folks. And I neglected to say that he was with a couple other guys. I'm smiling at them, but I'm not smiling at him. And he was pissed off. And I looked, and my my demeanor at that time is, I'm not a confrontational person. However, I do not take kindly to people when they disrespect me. And I'm like, okay, that's all I said was okay. This man thought he was going to haul off and hit me. Now, this man looked to be like now remember, I'm 19. This man looked at this point to appear like being in his late 30s, maybe 40s. He acted like he was going to haul off and hit me, or at least put his fingers in my face. I will tell you all this, young ladies. It is so very important that when you go someplace, you do some things, you establish good rapport with good-hearted men. Because I know some of you all say, well, men don't protect women, men don't do anything, men don't do this. I'm saying that it may be some truth that they don't stick their necks out for people who they don't have rapport with. So therefore, it is important for you to establish some rapport. Because this man tried to haul off and hit me because he felt disrespected because I did not smile at him. And I said, okay. And so, needless to say, a football player came and stood up and told him he needed to go on about his business. But all I am saying to you is this: it is not your job. So I'm saying to the gentlemen, not the ladies, because that's not their job. It's not a woman's responsibility to be smiling at you. I know it feels good, and I know it makes you feel like something, but don't take it as disrespect because they don't, and don't confront them because they don't. And don't get angry at them because they don't. Because that's not a them thing, that's a you thing. And how dare you believe that you performing violence on me in order for me to smile is something to be proud of? It's not. It really truly isn't. I didn't think so. It didn't seem like that because I remember old heads and old groups, and it was like they were struggling to get a 3 album deal. But a 10 album deal? Wow. He shouldn't be introducing that to somebody with a 17-year age gap. Doesn't seem like it. There was something she consented to, and I think that's what the prosecution is trying to get over, that there were some things that she consented to and there were some things that she didn't consent to. However, you do, if you listen to what I was reading earlier in regards to the worker, the sex worker that came on before, the defense was basically trying to establish that Cassie was in control over all these different things, that he did not do as much, or he wasn't as controlling and coercing as they're trying to make it out to be. Let's continue. And if my rant ups, if my slight little detour upset you, I do apologize, but I just do think it's very important that people hear that. So here we go. So it said, how did it impact you? Ventura, greatly. The next thing I knew, I was getting hit in the face. There was also psychological abuse. He told me to watch my mouth and change my face. uh, Prosecution. How would he keep tabs on you? Ventura. We didn't live far apart. He'd send security to come find me or a trusted assistant. And so she said, the prosecution says, like who? David James and Christina Coram. All right, people. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Let me pull this image up real quick. All right. Remember, these are the charges: racketeering and conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, transportation to engage in prostitution. So you got 2 counts of the sex trafficking by force and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. So here's where that racketeering and conspiracy. They're saying that the sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. This is setting up the freak offs, providing the drugs for the freak offs, saying that you're going to do one thing and you do some other, do some other things, or holding their career. In That's the coercion. Either I'm going to put these sex tapes out on you before the ones that you participated willingly in, and or I am not going to allow for you to continue with your 10-album record deal. So where does the racketeering coming from? Here's partly where I believe that the prosecution is going. The prosecution is trying to put through there, these people were part of the enterprise that he would use to try to keep her in check. So let's continue. David James and Christina Coram. Uh, Prosecution. Was your relationship exclusive? Ventura, no. They said, did you see other men? She says, yes. Did Sean see other women? Ventura said, yes. He said, I am Puff Daddy. I was insanely jealous. Did you move to LA with him? Ventura, yes. He wanted to be close to his kids who were there. And you remember how I said before, uh, Kim Porter and him, they were doing this. So Cassie and Kim were doing this. Kim was phasing out and Cassie was phasing in, as you would speak. And since he was still going back and forth with Kim Porter, he was I'm making the assumption, I don't know these people, so therefore I don't have any type of information to say that this is what was happening or not. But it gave me the opinion that he was trying to keep tabs on Kim as well. I know he probably wanted to move next to his children. I don't disbelieve that. But I also believe that he felt like, oh, okay, so his time in New York, it wasn't going well as it needed to be, because again, Bad Boy Records was not the big thing that it was going into the 2000s. Biggie was gone, Craig Mack had left, all the artists and things like that, they were not as big. So he was transitioning into other avenues, and moving to California probably was a deal, because I remember there was like the big artist that lived in New York. I would say probably because the market had crashed in 2008. So everything was cheaper around that time. So around 2008, 2009, between 2008 and 2011, the market was low. So buying these big mansions and things like that were on the cheap. A mansion that cost $3 million, you may have had 10 bedrooms, such and such baths and stuff like that. Nowadays, a mansion like that would probably run you 20, 30, $40 million. So if you got in on the real estate market after 2008, 2009, and you bought a home and you probably paid less than the current market value of that home, and now that home you probably pay, let's say $3 million, that home is probably worth $20 million out in LA. And right now, Los Angeles had a mass exodus because things are just getting too expensive for people. But let's continue. So they asked her where did she live in LA. She gave her address. And they said, how tall was the building? Ventura said no more than 17th floor. So she lived off of Wilshire Boulevard. I'm thinking, I don't know. Where did Sean live? He says he lived in South Mapleton. He would use a golf cart to get back and forth. Okay. Who paid your rent in LA? Sean, except when I had the house in Studio City. Why you pay then? Hmm? Why did you pay then? I could afford it then, and I wanted to have some control. It was accepted. By whom? Sean. So basically, what I'm gathering from this tweet is they asked her why did she have a house in Studio City when you had Sean paying for your house, and she was basically saying I wanted to have some control because if the whole relationship went tits up, she had some place to go. So they asked her, how many songs did you write while with Sean? Ventura, hundreds. Most were never released. Some got leaked on the internet, some on mixtapes. How many albums in your deal were not released? 9. Cassie only had one album? Cassie is the only studio album by American singer Cassie released on August 8th, 2006. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just looking on Wikipedia. She only had one album. And then a couple of singles? I know y'all lying. I know y'all lying. Cassie only had one album? Okay. Okay. Most were never released. Some got leaked on the internet, some on mixtapes. Okay. Did you get paid for them? She says no. Ventura. The freak offs became a job. There was no time to do anything else but to do them, then try to recover. I know you lying. Girl. How much time in your week would freak offs take? Ventura. The longest was 4 days, significant periods of time. Y'all remember they would say that those freak offs would the guy that was just on the stand, Mr. Phillip, said that they would have 10-hour sessions. And so you had a 10-hour session, you're having to recover from a 10-hour session, then get back up and do it again to the point that they would be so exhausted that they would have to take liquid IVs to fresh. I know y'all lying. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I didn't mean the scream in y'all's ear, but good God Almighty. So the judge took a break. Oh, oh my gosh. Let's get to CNN. Let's see what CNN says. We get y'all to share this tab. She testified that she was in the relationship with Combs for a little over 10 years. Prosecutor Emily Johnson showed Cassie Ventura a photo of Sean Combs and asked her to identify him. When she asked how she knew Combs, Ventura said, "We were in a relationship a little over 10 years." Cassie Ventura said that some of her arguments would be violent and result in some sort of physical abuse. They quote that he would smash me in my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head if I was down. Ventura said of her relationship with Sean Diddy Combs. Johnson asked how frequently was sheer physical with you during your relationship. She said, Cassie quoted, "too frequently." Ventura said she suffered injuries from the abuse, including knots on her forehead, busted lip, and bruises all over my body. And also, if you or someone you know is struggling with intimate partner violence, there are resources available, including the National Domestic Hotline. And that number for the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. If you or anyone you know needs assistance and help for assault, you can call that hotline at 1-800-656-4673. And I will repeat, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. The sexual assault hotline is 1-800-656-4673. Let's continue. Ventura describes what a freak-off entails. Prosecutor Emily Johnson pulled up a still image of a well-known hotel surveillance footage from the Intercontinental's 2016. Cassie said the image showed her leaving an encounter that we called a freak-off. Ventura was asked how she and her former boyfriend, Sean Diddy Combs, started doing freak offs. She says, within the first year of our relationship, he proposed this idea, this sexual encounter that he called voyeurism, where he would watch me be in intercourse with a third party, specifically with another man, she testified. Ventura went on to say that a freak off would entail hiring an escort and setting up this experience so she can perform for Sean. She said that she could not remember where the name freak off came from, but she says Combs introduced it to her. Eventually, it became a job for me, pretty much. So I knew if it was something he wanted me to do, I had the contacts to set it up, and get a hotel room and all of that. But in the beginning, Sean set it up. He was in charge, Ventura testified. Ventura says that she didn't know how to feel. She didn't know how to refuse freak offs. I just didn't feel like I had much say in it. Cassie Ventura recalled on the stand that when Sean Diddy Combs first proposed the freak offs to her, she said she remembered the feeling of her stomach falling. I also felt a sense of responsibility. It was him sharing something like that with me. I was confused, nervous, but also loved him very much and wanted to make him happy. So, she said. Ventura said she did not know how to refuse the freak offs. I got to a point where I just didn't feel like I had much of a choice. Didn't really know what no could be or what no could turn into. She said Combs controlled a lot of her life, from her career to the way she dressed. And I just didn't feel like I had much say in it at the time, being really super young, naive, total people pleaser, Ventura said. This right here will get y'all in trouble, y'all. This right here will take years of your life, years trying to be a people pleaser, trying to always make people feel good about what you are and who you are. This will rob you of years of your life. But let's continue. I didn't know if he would be upset enough to be a violent, or he would write me off and just not want to be with me at all. What the conundrum? Ventura says she kept broken laptops, iPads, and phones out of fear material will become public. Cassie testified that she was also afraid that the blackmail materials would become public. She said she kept broken laptops, iPads, and phones because she didn't know what material was on them. She also said that Sean is a really polarizing person, also very charming, so it's hard to be able to decide in that moment like what you need when he's telling you what he wants. The relationship between Combs and Ventura started platonically. She says, Cassie Ventura testified that she signed a contract with Bad Boy Records. Sean Diddy Combs' company in the early 2006. She said that before she met Combs, she knew him as a larger than life music entrepreneur, and she met him when she was about 19 years old. Ventura said that she had a platonic relationship with Combs in the time just after she signed with his record label. She said he looked out for her when she had a few rough performances. Now, I'm not familiar with her music, but I just always assumed that she had a lot of songs out. I had no clue that she had just one album out. Prosecutor Emily Johnson then showed the jury a photo of Ventura and Combs together in 2006, the same year she signed her record deal. Ventura says she was really confused the first time Combs kissed her. Because from what I understood, during that time, Cassie had a boyfriend. And I don't know. I can't recall because it looks like when this first kind of kicked off, it looks like I remember somewhere that she had a boyfriend, and there was some incidents where Diddy was trying to get her to not be with her boyfriend, and then there was he had made up this like she was going to have to go to this event in Miami. You know, he presented with all of these flyers and all this stuff like that to show that she had a gig in Miami, and then when she got to Miami, there was no gig. But that was a way that he was using to get her out around her boyfriend at that time. But let's continue. Cassie testified that she shot Combs about once a month at a social outing. In 2007, while celebrating her 21st birthday in Las Vegas, Combs kissed her in the bathroom. It was really confusing at the time, she said, noting that she was a young new artist who just didn't really know the lay of the land when it came to things like that. She testified that she cried and ran off. Uh, did you want to kiss Sean at your 21st birthday, prosecutors? And she says no. She says here, Combs the call of the shots in Ventura's career. Prosecutor Emily Johnson asked Cassie Ventura how Sean Diddy Combs influenced her career at the time. She says that he called most of the shots, well, all of the shots. I had a new record. I would play it for him. He chose what was next, basically. What was next for me, basically, Ventura said. So let's get back to let's get back to this. So let's get back to 116, which is a couple of hours ago. Let me make sure that we are on point. So this was 4 hours and 3 minutes ago. We still got some time. Combs was a fun guy that also happened to have my career in his hands, Ventura says. Cassie Ventura is detailing the early phase of her relationship with Sean Diddy Combs. After he kissed her on her 21st birthday, she said Combs began inviting her to hotel rooms in New York where he was staying while his home was being renovated. She said they started to develop a more comfortable relationship with each other. I wanted to be around Sean for the same reason as everyone else at the time. Just this exciting, entertaining, fun guy that also happened to have my career in his hand, Ventura said. It felt special because not a lot of people got that time with him. And a lot of people, even in out, just out and about and everything like that, outside of what we know about him right now, everyone says that he's I mean, he's real nice to hang around. You know, they hadn't seen him get upset or anything like that. He's a real cool. Everybody enjoys being around him because he's a partier. He parties hard. So a lot of people were saying that in that era or in that time that he was. But that doesn't mean that he wasn't as a thing. I'm just saying this is what people were saying. Ventura described herself as being sexually inexperienced at this time. During one of those New York visits, she said Combe performed oral sex on her and made her feel crazy for not reciprocating. I was just so young. I didn't even have the vocabulary for some of the things we talked about, she testified. I was also still in a relationship with someone else. Eventually, Combs, Ventura, and other friends took a trip to Miami, she said. Ventura said she took ecstasy that Combs gave her while they were drinking and partying on a boat. Ventura said she and chums had sex for the first time on this trip. I wonder was that the trip that she was supposed to be performing at? Anyway, Combs had many girlfriends, Ventura says. Cassie Ventura testified that I guess she became one of Sean Combs' girlfriend after the Miami trip. Sean Combs had many girlfriends, Ventura said. At the time, I knew that we were spending a lot of time together one on one, and I really felt like we were in a monogamous relationship for a period, she said. Okay, Cassie, because that don't make sense. If she said he had many girlfriends at the time, she became one of the many girlfriends, and then you thought that you were in a monogamous relationship, girls. No, baby, no, you weren't. But that's the thing about being young and numb. Their relationship wasn't public for years, she said, because she was his artist and because of his family. Remember, y'all, he was still in a relationship with Kim Porter. He was still in a relationship with Kim Porter. So I don't know why she would think that she wasn't in that relationship. All right. Ventura says she was initially enamored by Combs, but eventually saw a different side of him. Cassie Ventura said once she started dating Sean Combs, she broke ties with her management company, which also managed her former boyfriend. After the Miami trip, she said she fell in love with Combs. I traveled with him everywhere. I was in studio. I was just like his little shadow for a little while, she testified. Ventura said at this point the relationship was fun, describing it as her first real adult relationship. She also noted that Combs' lifestyle was much different than her own. He had assistants at his beck and call. He could get anything done quickly. He had respect from everyone. He traveled quite a bit, Ventura says. Ventura testified that early on she was just enamored by him, but later on she began to experience a different side of him, which was his abusive side. She said Combs was very controlling over my life and the things that I wanted to do, but there was still love there. Control was everything from the way that I looked to what I was working on that day, who I was speaking to. But control was kind of an all around thing to a certain point, she testified. And I remember a story, y'all. There was a point in time that Cassie was rocking a shaved, like the side of her head was shaved, and she was rocking that, and everybody was like, "What would make her cut her hair off?" But I think, like I said, when all of this kicked off, there was a conversation or an interview that she said that Puffy made her do that. That he's told her that this will make your image edgy and all this other stuff because they were still supposed to be working on this album or these albums. And I remember that she cut the side of her head off, and because she's a pretty girl and she could rock anything, it looked good until you had a whole industry at one time. People were rocking that mohawk look or something like that. I'm not saying that she created it. What I'm saying is usually that look was reserved for like the punk rock girls, but her being a pop R&B hip hop girly, that was edgy at the time. And so you saw a lot of people then started wearing the faux hawks and all of these little different things like that. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. That made me think about that. It says Combs' mood swung different ways quite a bit, Ventura says. On a typical day, Cassie Ventura said that she talked to Sean Diddy Combs all day throughout the day. She said sometimes she wouldn't answer his calls or his messages right away, and he would be an incessant caller, or he would have his staff call until she answered. There were times Combs' assistants or security personnel would locate her for him in person, she said. Prosecutor Emily Johnson asked Ventura to give an example of how Combs' moods impacted her. She says his moods swung different ways quite a bit. The most complicated and the greatest examples are the abuse, because I also felt at certain times when I knew it wasn't even about me, and you make the wrong face, and the next thing I knew, I was getting hit in the face, Ventura said. All right. Cassie Ventura said Sean Diddy Combs would check in on what music she was working on, and he would give her busy work on projects that never released. I think busy work, just the way I interpret it, was just control over what I was doing over every minute of the day, she testified. Ventura said that if she didn't respond to Combs, he would call her constantly and sometimes send someone, usually his security, to her home to check on her. Ventura said she thought she and Combs were in a monogamous relationship. She described her complicated relationship with Sean Diddy Combs. She testified that she thought that they were in a monogamous relationship, but soon realized they were not. I didn't get that he was him. He was Puff Daddy, and Puff Daddy has many women, Ventura said, describing how she felt jealous about seeing him with other women. He likes the company of women, and I had to just really learn that over time, despite what he would tell me just between us. She continued, he made me feel like we were in a monogamous relationship more often than not. It was really me figuring out that we were not. He expected that of me, so I guess I assume it was the same, Ventura said. Yes, he expected you to be at his beck and call, and he was with whom he wanted to be at the same time. And I'm just, let's continue. Ventura said she moved to Los Angeles to be closer to Combs because she was in love. I moved because I was in love and wanted to be near him, Ventura said. Combs paid her rent during her time in New York. Ventura confirmed when Combs paid the rent for the places she lived, he had his own keys and that he used whenever he wanted. Combs lived right down the block from Ventura's apartment in California, she said. She said she could walk or drive about 3 minutes to his home. Ventura said she later bought her own house in Studio City because she wanted freedom for herself. She says, I wasn't getting it in a lot of other ways, and there was no fight, she said. She didn't release 9 albums included in her record deal. This is crazy to me that she only did one album. Now, like I said, I don't know her music or anything like that. Could she sing, y'all? I mean, was she a good singer? I'm confused. Freak off. Yeah, that's what they called it. Freak out. Wild King Nights. That's what they called it. That's what they called it. Where are we? We're still under CNN. Yeah. Cassie Ventura said that she recorded hundreds of songs, and while some of them got released, some didn't see the light of day. She didn't release nine of the albums that were included in her record deal. Asked how not releasing the albums affected her financially, she said Ventura said her career was stifled. I imagine it was. So you think about it. You've written hundreds of songs. You're doing quote unquote busy work. You're putting out singles. And I'm willing to bet you, I don't know. I have to look it up, but I'm willing to bet you that the number of singles that she quote unquote put out probably could have been a whole nother album, but I'm not sure. Jury was dismissed. Ventura said that she spent a big chunk of her life recovering from day-long freak-offs. Cassie Ventura testified that the freak-offs could last 36, 48, or 72 hours. Now, I'm not crazy to believe that they were just in a sex straight for 36 or 48 or 72 hours. But what I do believe that they were in that whole ecstasy, alcohol, and ketamine and other drugs. So I'm y'all, I'm willing to bet they were giving uppers, they were giving downers, they were giving all of this stuff to keep that momentum going. I imagine some people probably passed out and had to go to the hospital because there's no way in the world that you could be doing all of this for so long. And my question is, why? That is doggone near orgy level. They quote her saying that the freak offs became a job where there was no space to do anything else but to recover and just try to feel normal again, she said. Ventura recalled the longest freak off continued for 4 or more days with some breaks. Y'all have to be lying to me. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Hold on. All right. It says here analysis, and this is what we were talking about earlier. Prosecutors want Ventura's testimony to bridge the gap between Combs' public persona and indictment. Cassie Ventura, the former girlfriend of Sean Diddy Combs, who was currently testifying in his federal criminal trial, is the linchpin in the government's case against the music mogul, according to CNN anchor. Prosecutors want her testimony to, quote, bridge the gap for the jury between Combs' public persona and who they say he is in the felony indictment. They claim he is a racketeer and that he has had that he is a sexual trafficker and that he is a violent man, she says. Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges that include racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. If convicted on all counts, he could face up to life imprisonment. And as I said before, I think the racketeering count is 20 years, and the other 4 counts are 15 years. Ventura has testified about the beginning of their relationship and how the power dynamic changed as time went on. She also detailed allegations of abuse and said that some of their arguments would be violent. The defense said in its opening statement that domestic violence is not trafficking. Lawyers for Combs also plan to argue Ventura made a choice of staying with him for more than a decade. And you remember that when we read this testimony, pay attention to that. The prosecution is trying to show that I'm quite sure, I don't know if they continued through there, but a 10 album record deal is kind of unheard of. I think the most that I've heard is someone will have like a 3 to 5 record deal, cuz that's expensive to and especially if you've only done one album, it would be hard to get out of a record deal like that unless, I guess you had to sue or something so that you can break a contract, but that would be difficult to do. So the prosecution is trying to show that she was in uh, a very odd record deal, trying to show that he was doing manipulative tactics, her being 19, him being 17 years older than she was, joining her on her 21st birthday, kissing her in the bathroom, uh providing sexual things to her that she has described that she didn't know much about during that time. uh Having her work on the record deal, making her believe that they were in a monogamous relationship. It was basically a one-sided monogamous relationship. She was in a monogamous relationship, he was not, and she's having to deal with all of that. And then if you're looking at how people operate with that control, with the moving to Los Angeles. Now, I would love to hear about what precipitated the move to Los Angeles. And you notice she said that, oh, we met in the hotels because his place was being renovated. I wonder what place that she's talking about. His place is in New York because he had, if we remember from, do you all remember from the VMA case with Jay Z? And you remember that when Diddy and Jay Z's lawyer did that press conference, and he made mention like at that time uh Sean Diddy Combs didn't have the place where that he had then, and then he discussed between a certain time where he had I think it was like one of the houses, one of the places he had at 2006. He bought something like in 2002, and then he bought another place in 2006, and then he had, but anyway, it ended up that he had like three different places in New York at one time. And it's interesting that she was talking about renovation when I realized he had about two different condos. And if I'm mistaken, I'll go back, but it just seems like he had two or three places to live at that point, for him to be living in the hotel. All right. Okay, she's back on the stand. All right, so we are here. Let's stop right here. So we're just a couple of hours behind, which is good because that'll give us a lot to be able to talk about. And we'll probably meet up with the trial after we go through this. All right. The judge tells the jury, "Welcome back." The prosecution starts their case, and they ask the question, "Who was your manager at Bad Boys?" Cassie Ventura, James Cruz. Now, if you were with me yesterday, that name should be important to you all because remember, after the 2016 incident, she left. And James Cruz was the one that kept calling her, telling her that her album wasn't going to come out or her single wasn't going to come out until she talked to Diddy. So let's see what's going on. They ask her, "Who was your manager at Bad Boy?" Cassie, James Cruz. Prosecution, "What did he tell you?" Ventura, "That he was managing me with one hand tied behind his back. He had to check everything with Sean." Interesting. Prosecutors, "How did you make your money if your records weren't being released?" Ventura, "I did hosting parties when Sean approved them." "What comments did Sean make about your physical appearance?" "That I look too Mexican with my hair like that." "How did he like your nails?" "White, French tipped." "Hair?" "It varied. I shaved my head in 2009. I remember that. Let's continue. "Your body. He told me to work out, prepare for the freak offs." "How do you feel about his comments?" "It varied." "What else did Sean pay for?" She says, "Cars." "Did he give you cash?" "Yes, but he would take things away depending on how he felt." "What else would he take away?" Oh, that girl said, "My self confidence." "Who would take things away?" "Staff." Ventura, "I assume staff." They say objection. Jury would disregard the last answer. "Who took your laptop and phone?" Ventura, "Security." "How long would they be gone for?" Ventura, "However long I was being punished for." "How often were you in contact with Sean's staff?" She says, "Daily." "Who are in these photos?" She says, "Christina Coram and Miss Fletcher." "What did you call Miss Coram?" Ventura, "KK." Now remember, KK is important. KK is very important. Uh, Prosecution, "Who is this?" Ventura, "D-Rock. He was Sean's security." "How frequently were you in Sean's residences?" She says, "All the time." He said, "Did they all have safes?" Ventura said, "Yes." "What did you observe in them?" Ventura, "Cash, jewelry, camera, and videotapes, guns in the New York, LA, and Miami, and Alpine, New Jersey." Did they rate? I know they rated Miami and LA. Did they rate the New York and the New Jersey places to you? This is, oh my gosh. Ugh, this is why I hate that we don't have at least audio and fed in the federal courts. But shout out to Inner City Press because he is out. I know his fingers are hurting. And so, along with anybody, if you can, y'all shoot him a little bit in his Cash App if he has a Cash Mac or Venmo or PayPal. Shoot him a couple of dollars because he needs to be able to go to the nail salon and get him a hand rub or something because I know them fingers are overworked. Do you recall an incident between Sean and Suge Knight? Okay, I'm sorry. I wasn't expecting to see the name Suge Knight. I just wasn't expecting it. Ventura, yes. We were having a freak off in LA. D Rock came in and said Suge was down at a diner. Sean drove over there. What was your reaction? Ventura, I cried. I said, don't do something stupid. Y'all in hip hop, do y'all remember that? I think he was called Puffy then. Sorry, y'all. Hold on, y'all. All right, let me share this. Hot take. Suge Knight hot take comment on Cassie versus Diddy, especially parts about him. Suge Knight will directly address Cassie's claim Diddy once grabbed a bunch of guns to go confront the ex Death Row Records boss. TSZ Hip Hop has learned, although Puffy might have already beat him to the punch. The ex Death Row honcho will take the Diddy convo on his Collect Call podcast in the next couple of weeks because back then he was calling from the jail phone and doing a podcast with somebody else. Uh, the ex Death Row honcho will take the Diddy convo on his Collect Call podcast in the next couple of weeks, right after he drops his Thanksgiving Day episode, according to sources involved in the production. That was the plan anyway, before Diddy and Cassie suddenly settled Friday night. As we reported in Cassie's lawsuit, Diddy against Diddy, she claimed that one night while she was at home with Diddy, one of his security officers staff burst into the room to inform him that Suge had been spotted at a popular LA eatery, Mel's Drive-In Diner. Cassie alleges immediately got dressed, retrieved multiple firearms from a safe, and ran out to go confront Suge. It doesn't appear any public altercation went down. Like we said, the ex Bad Boy singer was seeking major damages in her lawsuit with Diddy. All right. Diddy's team had told us the suit was nothing but a classic shakedown for $30 million. That didn't age well. Suge and Diddy's history date back to the mid 90s at the height of the East Coast West Coast rap wars, eventually ending with the murders of Tupac Shakur and Biggie. So, not surprisingly, we're told Suge would not hold back on his take with Diddy's new legal drama. Speaking of Pac, the Thanksgiving episode of Suge's Pause will tackle Keith D's arrest for the 1997 murder. All right, let's get back to where we were. Ah. And if you all are not familiar, Suge Knight and Diddy back in the 90s did not get along. Suge Knight infamously went on the Source Awards. If you all a lot of you all might be too young, but for those of us that remember the Source Awards, baby, every time you turned around, if all those rappers got into a room together, somebody was fighting and rolling. People were up there winning awards, and you would see rappers fighting like rolling like tumbleweeds down the aisle because they were fighting and everything like that. It was a big thing. You had different sets fighting each other. You had East Coast versus West Coast, and it had gotten really it just got really bad. I think this culture of checking in and all this other stuff kind of pulled from that. Someone from LA couldn't go to New York, and somebody from New York couldn't go to LA, and then you had the Florida Negroes that was getting involved in it, and it was just a whole lot of stuff. And then all of it came to a sobering halt when first Tupac was taken out, and then Biggie was taken out. And after a while, people started to realize these are, at that point in time, back between 95 and 97, let's even go to 93, 94, from like 93 to about 97, Tupac and Biggie and all of those types of rappers, the Nas's, they were big. And I mean, they were like top tier. They were considered to be top tier rappers. They were well, let me just smooth in. They were considered to be great rappers. They were on a high. And then to know that all of that street beef took out two of very good lyricists, I think that it caused for a pause. So now we got all of this inner city beef, and then you started getting the folks up there in Chicago and all of this other stuff. But it was intense. It was intense, and it was unnecessarily intense. And also, I would say too, mainstream media was out here also pushing that narrative and pushing it, because again, that's how partly a lot of these albums were selling. Everybody was, you were either Tupac or you were Biggie. Before, you just liked, if you liked a rapper, it didn't matter, you would go buy everybody's album. Then it got to this thing where, oh no, if you're an East Coast person, you can only listen to East Coast people. If you were from the West Coast, you only listen to the West Coast. And then the South got into it. So everybody from Memphis to Atlanta to Miami to Houston, you listen to those rappers. And then in the South, everything got kind of segregated again. If you were over here in Houston, you listened to those people. It was a whole lot of when you like what you like. You may like a song from a Houston rapper, a couple of them, and you may like a song from a Memphis rapper, and you may like a song from someone from Miami. I always say, you like what you like, buy what you like. Let's continue. All right. Prosecution. Were you ever handed a gun? Ventura, yes. We were doing a club in downtown LA. We'd taken mushrooms. I was high. I was told to put the gun in my bag. I was freaking out. Who was present? A driver, security, and Sean. It was rumored that, you remember when the lady was shot at the club, and they convicted Shine. He was convicted for the shooting. They are saying back in the day, that's why a lot of people thought J-Lo would have to testify to something just to show a pattern or something. But they're saying that this type of that Diddy would get guns and things into clubs because he would have them putting in the women's purses, because nobody was checking their purses. And I know this is a lot to be speculating, but that's what we do over here. We'll speculate and kind of go on what we remember and everything like that. But that's just interesting. But they were saying that back in the day, because Diddy who he was, and J-Lo was who she was, they would always assume that Diddy would have a gun, but they wouldn't have assumed that J-Lo would have had the gun. So they were saying that allegedly that he would ask her to keep the guns in her purse and go into the club, because they weren't checking the purses at that time. Ventura. Another time I saw them get dressed and grab guns and leave in an SUV. Prosecution. How long were they gone? Ventura, 30 or 40 minutes. So the prosecution says, let me switch topics. How soon in the relationship did Sean mention voyeurism to you? Ventura, first 6 months or a year. How old were you? Ventura, 22. Why did you agree to try a freak off? Ventura, good question. I wanted to make him happy. Prosecution. Where was the first freak off? Ventura. one of his homes in Los Angeles. She shows her exhibit 2A 627. Prosecution asks Ventura, who is this? Ventura says, the first escort. You know, we never forget our first. Let's continue. Do you know his name? Ventura. No. Prosecution. I'll call him the first escort. Were you aware he was paid? Ventura. Yes. To dance and to have intercourse with me. Hey, Lauren. It's wild. All these little implications that are coming up, the Suge Knight incident, uh the Miami incident, all of this stuff is coming up. This is too wild. This is why I really, really, we need to petition you all. There's like what 518 of you all listening to me at this time. Y'all, we need to come up with the petition. I'm looking, even when we're looking at inner city press, there's like in each post, there is no less than 70,000 people. Can you imagine if all the people, if we added up, there are probably 30 or 40 million people that have tuned in to this man's TikTok. I mean, not TikTok, his Twitter X. And if we could all do a petition to change the law, the federal law that doesn't allow for cameras in the courtroom. I think so too, but you'll find that there are a lot of there's a lot of women that like to have sex with a lot of men. There are a lot of men that like to have sex with a lot of women, and all that stuff gets mixed and coagulated in there. Uh, you know, and I don't know about at the same time either. I don't know, but there are just people who like to do that, child. We need to start something. Oh, I got to go back to Schoolhouse Rock. We need to start a bill, and so we could get to Capitol Hill, so we could get up there and have them to at least. I mean, I clearly understand because you have a lot of certain cases with a lot of uh terrorists, and you have a lot of cases with RICO charges and gangsters and people. I understand that, but I don't understand why there is no audio. I mean, we could, because the nuance and the inflections, I'm making up the nuance and inflections just because it's just how I would think it would go, because I watched a lot of Law and Order, but I have no idea of what her demeanor or anything like that. I guess have to wait to listen to the people who've been in the courtroom to be able to explain that to me. But right now I'm just spitballing it right now. Uh, What drugs did you take? Ventura, ecstasy and alcohol before things started. Prosecution, did you disguise your appearance? Ventura, Sean said we would disguise ourselves. I wore a masquerade mask. What was a session in a freak off? Ventura, until the escort finished. How many sessions with first escort? She said at least two. How did you feel? Ventura, I was high. I didn't feel much. Dirty and confusion, and that he was happy with me. Uh, Prosecution, why did you feel that you couldn't say no? Ventura, I didn't want to make him angry or upset after he'd shared this part of himself with me. Prosecution, how frequent did the freak offs become? Ventura, weekly for a consistent amount of years. When was your last one? 2017, 2018? How long were you awake during the freak offs? Ventura, I never slept. I took drugs, ecstasy, Molly, and cocaine. I told y'all. The uppers and those downers, those uppers and those downers. There was no need for all of that because they were the drugs that made them perk them up and made them high and happy. The Molly, they were probably tearing everything up, and then they probably took the alcohol so that they could calm down and get some sleep. Well, she said she never slept. Jeez. Prosecution. Do you recall all of the freak offs? Ventura. This girl said that would be impossible. Prosecution. Did you want to stop? Ventura. Yes. I was humiliated. I didn't have those words then. I couldn't talk to anyone about it. And she starts crying. Oh my goodness. Let me get a little pause so that we can feel the gravity of that. Yes, I was humiliated. I didn't have those words then. I couldn't talk to anyone about it. Have you ever felt like that? That you were feeling a feeling, and let's talk about the humiliation feeling, and then it's sometimes it's more powerful than that, but we don't have the words for it. And so sometimes when we can't describe it or we can't express it like we need to, we want to act like it doesn't exist, or we'll put it over here in a compartment in our brain and act like it doesn't exist, and we don't tend to it until that compartment in our brain starts to burst open, and then we have a whole lot of other things going. So either you'll be healed, or you'll just cause more confusion and terror. Prosecution. Did you all right. Did you tell him you didn't want to? She says yes. Inner city press. Ventura, I brought it up gently. I didn't want him to just do it without someone else. Do it with someone else. Okay. Were you able to express your concerns to him? Defense, objection, leading, judge, rephrase. Why would you talk to him gently? Ventura, I didn't want him to be angry. So the prosecutor presents her with something and asks her, what is this? And Ventura says, it's an email between me and Sean. What did you call him? Ventura, Pop Pop. Oh my gosh. Pop Pop is the word that people use for their granddaddy. He asked me what I called my grandfather. I did it, but now I think it was disrespect. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, what am I going to do with this information? This is information that needed to be nowhere in my brain. Nowhere in my brain. But I will repeat it. What is this? An email between me and Sean. What did you call him? Ventura. Pop Pop. Why? He asked me what I called my grandfather. I did it, but now I think it was disrespectful. Okay. It is disgusting. That is just, ugh. You call your granddaddy Pop Pop. The way people blur lines and then think it's okay at one period of time, and then when you look back on it and you try to explain what's going on, it feels gross and grimy. Okay. I'm sorry, I missed over a whole conversation. Prosecution. What did you write? Ventura. I really need to F. Why did you write that? Ventura. Because I wanted to be with him. Prosecution. I'll read your messages. I'll read. I will read your messages. You read yours. So I guess she said I'll read his messages and you'll read yours. So the prosecution reads Sean's messages. You don't want to do anymore? Ventura, I am so predictable. I don't understand. What do you think this meant, Ventura? That he knew I didn't want to do freak offs anymore, but then I backpedaled. Why? To not make him angry. He could be violent. Prosecution. Where's you get your outfit? Ventura. Pleasure chest. Elsewhere. Oh, you know I'm nosy. What is pleasure chest, y'all? What is pleasure chest? You know I'm nosy. Is it supposed to be a store? Oh, it is a store. Oh, well, I don't see any outfits. Oh, okay. All right. Oh, that's what I get for being nosy. Let's get to where I'm supposed to be. I can't put it up on my screen. That's not nothing that I need to put up the screen. So I'm just being nosy. All right. Ventura, pleasure chest, elsewhere. Did you get piercings? Ventura, yes. Sean came with me. Which of his homes do you have freak offs in? Miami and New York. What other homes? My homes, all but Studio City. In what other cities? Ventura, Atlanta, and Ibiza. In prosecutor. In what hotels in New York do you have freak offs? The Trump Hotel and the Gramercy. Prosecution, Intercontinental, Ventura, 44th Street. Yes. Prosecution elsewhere. Ventura, the Mandarin Oriental and the Fontainebleau. What names were used? Ventura, Jackie Star. I used Flank Black. What supplies for the freak offs? Astroglide, baby oil, and condoms. Who bought the supplies? Ventura, security, Sean's assistants. Which brand of baby oil? Ventura, Johnson's. How was it used? Ventura, Sean says you need to be glistening. What that look like shiny berry? There in that room looking like old shiny babies. I know the people in them hotels was glad to see y'all leave. Got all them sheets and walls and toilet seats and bathrooms and floors all full of baby oil and Astroglide. I know they was tired of y'all. Were there freak offs where you ran out of baby oil? Defense, objection, Your Honor. This is irrelevant. The prosecution. You also mentioned Astroglide. Defense, same objection, irrelevant. Judge, sidebar. How is it irrelevant? They was up there using all that baby oil and and astroglide and slip sliding all across the place, knowing they got sick. Just nasty. When people couldn't sleep, y'all slip sliding all off the bed, thudding on the ground, falling all in the shower, breaking mirrors and just an old slick, shiny mess. It is wild. Just thousands of dollars, thousands of bottles of baby oil. Oh, oh, let me stop. Let me stop. We were talking about Astroglide prosecution. How is it used? Ventura, a lubricant. Prosecution. If you ran out, what? Ventura. We'd call either staff or the bell desk, give them a tip. Prosecution. Were the freak offs lit? Ventura. Initially, it was candle. It was candle, strong smelling, Glade. Y'all needed candles, incense, fabuloso. Y'all needed everything. Y'all was in there slip sliding with Astroglide, smelling like ass and coochie and everything. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Strong smelling Glade. Any other use of candle wax? A few times poured on my body. Who set the temperature of the room? Sean. I was expected to do freak offs on my. Cassie, no. So y'all are glistened up with the baby oil. Looking like a shiny mess. Using the Astroglide to go into crevices that things probably didn't fit. And you were also on your cycle. So you could be cramping on your cycle. Let's continue. Let's continue. I be careful what you ask for. Be careful what you ask for because we have received this and this was more than what we thought it was going to be. Did you want to do that? Ventura said no. Did you want to be urinated on? Defense, objection. The judge says, what's the grounds? The defense asked an answer. Judge overruled. Because they asked the guy that. I don't remember them asking her that, but let's continue. Ventura, no, I didn't want it. Prosecution, how did it feel? Ventura, it was disgusting. It was too much. I choked. No one could think I wanted it. Y'all were glistening, slip sliding all over these people's hotel rooms, getting baby oil on the walls, on the floor, on the carpets, on the chairs. Then you're using the Astroglide to slide into places that certain things didn't fit for people. You were having relations on your cycle, and now you're urinating. Like I said, I know them folks. was tired of y'all in these rooms, tearing them up like y'all were tearing these rooms up. Oh my gosh, let's continue. Prosecution, why were you choking? Ventura, too much urine in my mouth. Who also urinated on you? Ventura, Sean. Did you want Sean to urinate on you? Ventura, I didn't want anyone to urinate on me. How often did it happen? Ventura, often enough. Prosecution, which hotel charged the most for damage to the room? Ventura, the Intercontinental in New York. They redecorated the whole room for ridiculous money. Prosecution, back to the urination. Y'all would have paid 3 and 4 times what the hotel was worth with all that mess y'all was in there doing. You can't make me believe all y'all stinking and sweating and I'm sorry, y'all. Okay. Judge, Miss Johnson, only a few more questions. Prosecution, why didn't you say no? Ventura, it was obvious that I wanted to be on the ground being urinated on by 2 men. Where did you find escorts? Ventura, initially Craigslist. Judge, we'll break here. Wow. Y'all, let me go and refill my cup of water. We will break here too, because this is a lot. This is a lot, Sam. This is a lot. All right, let me do this. Give me about 3 minutes. That'll give me enough time to run and get something. And I'll be right back, y'all. I promise. All right. Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much. We are going to get back into this. We wanted to know about the freak offs. We know about the freak off. Maybe it was much more than what we thought it was going to be, y'all. Let's continue. So they come back. Oh, well, let's do this. So it's about an hour away. Let's go ahead and go over the information from CNN. Ventura's manager had one hand tied behind his back with the decisions going on through Combs. Let's see if they say anything else. Cassie Ventura said that James Cruz, an employee of Bad Boy Records, managed her career after she started dating Sean Combs. Excuse me. But added that the decision ultimately went through Combs. So he was basically the puppet. His role in managing my career was that he was managing me with one head tied behind his back. She said her self worth took a hit. But Cassie Ventura testified that Sean Diddy Combs was very involved in her physical appearance and started making comments about the way she looked almost immediately in the relationship. Uh, I remember there was talk that Puffy liked white fingernail polish. And we kind of heard that from the Mr. Phillips yesterday, that he liked for. So if you go back, you could go through Instagram and any of those things. Go back and look at the women who he claimed that he was dating at the time, whether they were in the know or not, or who people thought he was dating. Go check their fingernails, especially their toe. You notice they always had like white toenail polish. And then they had like the French tips, because some people would have and watch him. Uh, the person that I remember this to be really frank, I remember Lori Harvey. And I remember when Lori Harvey was dating him, she had these long, she started off with these long fingernails, and then her nails got progressively shorter. And I don't know if that was age or not, but I do remember the white toenail polish. And you go back to Cassie's old picture, if you saw her with her toes out, she had like a French tip where she had on white fingernail polish. And I know that white fingernail polish, well, it used to be as of 2 or 3 years ago, was a trend. With a lot of people get their toes painted white. That was a big thing, a pearl white, or just whatever white. I know that that was a thing. I don't know if it still is at the time, but I just remember those little details. But let's continue. Appearance was very important to him. My appearance, she said, adding that Combs would make comments about her hails and nails, but meanwhile, he was looking like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man up under them suits he had with his knock knees. Anyway, we had tons of conversations about my body at the time, she testified. That included decisions about breast implants and keeping my shape in a certain way, she said. My self worth took a hit for the entirety of the relationship, just trying to establish who I was, who I wanted to be, who I was allowed to be, Ventura said. Because there's a story, a rumor out that she got he paid for her to get some breast implants and then turned around and said, "Oh, I don't like them." And had them turn around and to take those breast implants off, I think in a span of 5 days. Now I don't know how true that was, because I don't know any well, unless they were bothering her, but she claimed that they were, from what I understood, they were made, she was made to take them out and get another set. Interesting. Ventura said if Combe disapproved of her, his staff would take her belongings away like she was 10. Prosecutors asked Ventura about her relationships with Combs' assistants. Ventura testified that in the first 3 years of her relationship with Combs, one of his assistants would regularly help Ventura with her finances. Ventura said that she spoke to another assistant on a daily basis about everything from scheduling to what kind of mood Combs was in. She knew a lot about my personal things, Ventura said. Ventura described seeing cash, jewelry, tapes, and guns in Combs' safes. Cassie Ventura said that Sean Diddy Combs had a safe in every one of his rooms and that she would occasionally would access them to get him money or something. There was always cash and jewelry and sometimes tapes, SD cards from cameras and guns depending on the safe, she said. Ventura testified she saw handguns in Combs' residence in New York, Los Angeles, Miami, and Alpine, New Jersey. Now I'm from the South. And we have gun safes, we have safes with money, we have safes with different things. We have safes that had there's safes you have important papers in and all this little different stuff. So that's not odd to me, but what I am thinking, that they're trying to establish that Combs had this quote unquote gangster lifestyle because he's got guns and things at the ready. Interesting, but we're going to continue. And in a state like New York, because I don't think that you can carry in New York, and I don't know if you can carry like that in Los Angeles and California either. So for those two types of states, that would be a very big thing. But to hear that being somewhere from the South, that's not as avant-garde as people think. Cassie testified that Sean Diddy Combs was rivals with former rap mogul Marion Suge Knight, but we already knew that. The former Death Row co-founder who was sentenced to prison for the death of a man during a hit and run incident on the set of the movie Straight Outta Compton. One time, she and Combs had a quote freak off at his home in Los Angeles when one of his security guards came and mentioned that Suge Knight was at a diner close by. They quickly packed up and drove down there. She said that she was crying and screaming and explaining to him not to do anything stupid. Ventura said that she was shocked when Combs first mentioned voyeurism. And I guess that's what they call it. He would want to see me with another male having sexual interactions, Ventura testified. He also brought up swinging, she said. Ventura said that she was shocked when Combs first told her about voyeurism. I didn't know how to react. I didn't want to upset him if I said that it scared me or if I said anything outside of, okay, let's try it, she said. Why Ventura's testimony about interacting with Combs' staff is important, according to a former prosecutor. Here we go. Cassie Ventura testified about how she interacted with several of Sean Diddy Combs' assistants and staff. Now, if you're familiar with Sean Combs, there was I think it came on MTV years ago because he had an assistant. I don't know if her name was Ethiopia, Egypt. I can't remember what this woman's name was, but she was a former assistant of Sean Diddy Combs that came to be uh she was very big in business, and she credited her stint as Sean Combs' personal assistant with helping her in business, because she was saying like he required for you to get things done, and so you had to do what you needed to do, use your wits about yourself to get things done. And that was the way that you had to work. So if you were going to be an assistant of his, you had to be able to have that go get it mindset, and you had to be able to do what you needed to do so that you could get the finished project, and that was getting Diddy what he wanted. And so I remember that, and because if I'm not mistaken, and I could be, but I think she did courses or something like that, just talking about how to be a good assistant and how that helps you move up into the business world and be successful in the business world and stuff like that, because you had that type of attitude. And that is something that I remember that a lot of people got from Diddy. And so then when you start to then move up to when we had Making the Band and the infamous cheesecake episode where they had them go over there to get the cheesecake, and then he was like, you remember he made them walk there to get the cheesecake, and then they turned around and walked back. And by the time they got back, he was like, well, I thought y'all had given up on that. And they said, well, no, we walked there and walked back. He said, well, who told y'all to walk back? And I can't remember which one of them. I don't know if it was Bunny or Bay, whatever they call. I don't know which one of it was. Everybody kind of looked at each other, because like they didn't even think about it. They just walked to go get the cheesecake, and then they walked back with the cheesecake. And he was like, y'all could have walked. Yeah, I just needed y'all to walk to go get it, because I needed you all to understand the importance of grinding or something that he said. But they were like stunned when they realized that they could have walked back, because I think that venture took them pretty much all day. Anyway, let's continue. Cassie Ventura testified how she interacted with several of Sean Diddy Combs' assistants and staff during their relationship, an important part of the government's effort to prove that Combs engaged in racketeering. And you remember I had that down, that they have to show that he was using his assistants and the people that he worked for him to do things or be in places to do these things, and they knew that possibly something illegal like the assaults, something illegal like the providing of the drugs, something illegal with paying for the sex workers. Julie Grant, a court TV anchor and former prosecutor, said Ventura's testimony helped paint a picture for the jury of the organization and how people who work for Diddy might have been involved in the allegations. Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges that included racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Grant also said that Ventura can identify instances in where she witnessed other people working as agents for Combs and doing things on his behalf. And that's important, and that's the key wording. Grant said, that all does to the charge of racketeering. According to the U.S. Justice Department, to convict someone of racketeering, prosecutors must prove 5 different criteria. One of them is a criminal enterprise existed and that there was a pattern of racketeering activity. In the indictment, the government alleges Combs was using his business enterprises and having these people who worked for him in various capacities help him exert that power and control to force women like Cassie to engage in unwanted sexual behaviors. There are some of the things she said about Combs staffers so far. Number one, if Combs disapproved of her, he had staff take her belongings, she said. Number two, Ventura testified that in the first 3 years of her relationship with Combs, one of his assistants would regularly help her with her finances. And third, she said that she talked to another assistant on a daily basis about everything from scheduling to what kind of mood that Combs was in. Interesting. Ventura said Combs directed every detail, including the lighting. Cassie Ventura, and we've talked about this, and this is about the freak offs, and I don't want to relive that whole emotional tirade that I went through with all of that with their little slippery, stanky selves. But let's continue. Ventura started staying awake for days at a time against her will. Cassie Ventura described how she stay awake for days at times without sleep against her will for the freak offs. That her former boyfriend, Sean Diddy Combs, organized. Asked how she could stay awake that long, Ventura said the drugs honestly helped. She testified that she would take ecstasy, cocaine that Combs would give her. Ventura said Combs would decide when the freak-offs would end. He'd tell her at some point a session would be the last one, and she think hopefully that would be the last one. The moment Ventura broke down. Okay, so they're describing that because we remember we paused when we found that she was crying. It says, ask what she enjoyed, if anything, about the freak offs. Ventura broke down in tears. She says, the time spent with him, she said. She added that she felt like it was the only time she could get with him. I felt disgusting. I was humiliated. I did not have the words to put together at the time how horrible I really felt, and I couldn't talk to anybody about it, Ventura said. Ventura says she tried to gently bring up not wanting to do freak offs with Combs. I didn't want to upset him or make him angry with me for even sharing it, she said, but I would just tread it lightly when I brought it up. Sometimes I would email him about it. I didn't want anything bad to happen. Ventura said that she wanted her to call him Pop Pop. Gross. He called her Cece, which stands for Cassie Combs. She called him Pop Pop. He called her Cece. Okay, so we're at 2 hours and 26 minutes. Let's go back down. Here we go. When Sean Diddy Combs would get upset, he could be a scary person and could get violent, she testified. Ventura went on to describe the ways she would alter her appearance for the freak off. She said that she would regularly get a wax, a tan, and her nails done. Her nails had to be painted white or with a French tip with a white French tip per Combs' instructions, she said. She also described getting piercings at Combs' suggestion. Ventura said that she would wear see-through netted outfits and extremely high heels. Combs used aliases like Frank White, Frank Black, for hotels room, Ventura said. John Diddy Combs used alias like Frank White or Frank Black for hotel rooms where they would have freak-offs. Ventura said freak-offs were held at both her and Combs' houses, in addition to hotels in New York, Miami, Los Angeles, Atlanta, Las Vegas, Ibiza, and Turks and Caicos. Sometimes she would book the hotel rooms, and other times Combs' staff would, she said. His staff would provide materials such as baby oil, lubricant, and condoms, she said. And this is what again, let me pull this up for you all real quick. Remember the charges. They're talking about the racketeering. They're talking about the transportation to engage in prostitution. So they're talking about these freak offs, and that they, in order for a freak off to be a freak off, there had to be a hired sex worker. And so now they're establishing that they did it in hotels in New York. They did it in hotels in Miami. They did it in places in Los Angeles. They did it in Atlanta. They did it in Vegas. They did it in Ibiza. They did it in Turks and Caicos. And they hired people for the explicit purpose to do these things in all these different places. Now, transportation to engage in prostitution. Where my confusion comes with this, and maybe we should look this up, because my confusion comes in, is it that he was transporting, is that they were transporting Cassie there, or were they transporting the prostitutes or the escorts? All right. So this is the Mann Act. The Mann Act makes it a federal crime to knowingly transport an individual across state lines, state or national borders, for the purpose of engaging in prostitution or any other illegal sexual activity. Okay, things are clicking now. The Mann Act, also known as the White Slave Trade Act of 1910, is a federal law that criminalizes the transportation of any woman or girl for the purpose of prostitution or debauchery for any other immoral purposes. The Mann Act passed in June 1910 and named after Illinois Congressman James R. Mann. Now, here Here is what I understand about this Mann Act, if I remember going back in my memory. There was a boxer. I can't think of what this boxer's name, but they were criminalizing him under this Mann Act because he either was, I don't know if he was married to the white woman or they were dating, because, back then you couldn't mix the races. And so a black man with a white woman, they considered that to be debauchery or immoral purpose. So they could have been in a relationship, but legally they couldn't have been in a relationship. And so when he transported, I don't know if she was his wife or not. I can't remember how it is, because back then in some states you could get married, in other states you couldn't. And so if he got on a plane, or if they drove and he had this woman with him, he was considered to be breaking the law. What was 2 years after he died? She do you know the boxer that I'm talking about? I can't think of what it is. I can't think of his name. Let me look it up. I'm right here at Google. Jack Johnson was convicted under the Mann Act in 1913. Okay. Jack Johnson conviction in 1930 was for transporting a white prostitute from Pittsburgh to Chicago, but was motivated by public outrage over his marriages to white women. And so let's do this because I think that this is something interesting that you all should see. So I wrote on here, boxer convicted under the Mann Act, Chuck Berry, Tony Alamo. Look at this. Brian David Mitchell. Was it Brian David Mitchell? Jack Shop. And so there's a lot of people who so let's look at the Mann Act in simple terms. The Mann Act, what's it? Okay. It was initially intended to combat forced prostitution, but has a broad scope that has led to its use in various cases, including those involving consensual sexual activity and political persecution. The Mann Act aims to prevent the interstate transportation of individuals for immoral purposes, primarily prostitution and human trafficking. The law prohibits transporting anyone across state lines for prostitution or debauchery or for any other immoral purpose. I hope you all are listening to me. I hope you all are listening to me. Go look this up. And look at this. There's a thing. The Mann Act, unforgivable blackness. What does this say? So they've done a whole thing with on PBS. So you can definitely go watch the documentary. There's a whole documentary about this. Y'all can definitely go read about this and what Sean Diddy Combs is being prosecuted about. Let's continue. We learned something. It's I love this. I love learning this kind of stuff. And you all need to be very aware. So for you all, you young men, you young women, you need to be very aware that it is against the law. If you going over here and y'all know y'all going to all these places that you all know that technically you all are committing it's against the law. You go to these places and you hire somebody to have sex with you, that's against the law. Gentlemen, you need to understand and know this. And I don't want to hear anything about, well, it shouldn't be. People should stay out of my business, all that other stuff. I don't want to hear that. It is against the law. You can't transport or tell your woman to come over here because y'all are going to engage in stuff like this and do some debauchery and how debauchery is designed. You need to figure it out. 2 years after he died. Craziness. But again, this is why I was telling you all yesterday about sexual discipline. You're not going to get me, I tell you that much. Because I've got this cough. I hadn't had a cough all day. And now I'm trying to speak life into you all. Like somebody is like it's trying to stifle my throat, but you will not stifle my throat. Be very careful and be very aware of what the laws are. Got you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sheed. Be very careful and be very aware. And I, like I said it before, you young men are making millions and millions of dollars playing sports, playing these video games, and I'm not even mad at that. I mean, if you can do that, that's fine. But you need to be very, very aware how sexual discipline is so important. You are going, going across state lines, doing you need to understand, you need to know what these laws are because this law was designed from what we just read because they were concerned about the white girls being put into slavery. Now, you didn't care nothing about the black gals, but you were very aware that white gals were going to be put into slavery. White girls were going into prostitution. And oh my goodness, if this white girl was in prostitution and she was servicing a black man. Y'all need to be careful, practice sexual discipline, and don't let nobody punk you out about that too. Because I do know that there are young men that you all hang around that want to tell you that those types of things make you weak. No, it doesn't make you weak. It makes you responsible. So look at all the men out here now that we're reading, or we're in the middle of their cases and I'm reading the lawsuits being filed against them. And 100% has to do with the lack of sexual discipline. Now, gentlemen, I don't want you to think I'm just talking to you. I'm talking to the ladies too. Let's continue. Where we are. Ventura details how Combs instructed them to use the baby oil. She testified they used quite a bit of baby oil. And as I said before, they out there slipping and sliding and glistening and astrogliding into places that don't fit, all on the floor, urinating, having sex on their menstrual cycles, and all kinds of crazy stuff that they're in there doing. Breathe. Ventura said they used somewhere around 10 large bottles of baby oil per freak off. One time there was a baby pool filled with baby oil, she testified. Combs told her to get into the pool to cover herself in the oil, she said. She testified, dog, y'all done messed up these folks' hotel rooms. And I'm surprised no one fell and hit their head somewhere. Just an oily mess. She testified she did as she was told because she felt like she couldn't say no. If that's something Sean wanted to happen, that's what was going to happen. There wasn't another way around it, she said. When they ran out of lubricant doing a freak off, Ventura said they called someone on Combs' staff or their hotel desk to bring more. Combs would call an assistant himself or direct Ventura to call them, she said. Law enforcement seized more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant during searches of Combs' home in Miami and Los Angeles. I'm so surprised that hotels weren't talking to each other. Because it's one thing to have that kind of business, but it's another thing to have that kind of business. Y'all got to use Glade fresh candles and all kinds of stuff to keep all the funk and everything down. Y'all are in there just rolling and bowling and rumbling and stumbling all in lubricant, and I would not have wanted to be the person to have to clean that mess up. The hotel rooms were trashed after freak-offs. Cassie Ventura said the hotel's rooms they used for the freak-offs would typically be trashed after the drug-filled sex performances. She testified that she would try to clean up a bit, and typically they'd leave a good tip. Many times, one of Sean Diddy Combs' staff members will go in and clean up more. Combe was often charged by hotels for the damages, Ventura said. She recalled hearing Combs' staff member take calls from the hotel about the matter. One specific time, Ventura recalled the Intercontinental in New York charging Combs a really high number for damage to a hotel room. And I bet you they did that in hopes that he wouldn't bring his ass back. And let me look and see where we left off. Here we go. So we were okay. All right. Ventura said it was disgusting. It was too much. It was overwhelming. Cassie Ventura testified that the freakos off orchestrated by Sean Diddy Combs became disgusting and overwhelming. She said she told the jury how many times Combs himself will urinate on her or demand an escort to do so. Ventura testified that she did not want anyone to urinate on her, adding that she felt humiliated. It was disgusting. It was too much. It was overwhelming. She returned to the stand. Her testimony continues. Cassie has spent the afternoon testifying in part about the power dynamics between her and former Combs. Okay, let's see where we are. All right, so this is where we are in the thing. So let's go and read that. All right, Judge, all rise. Miss Ventura, in what cities did you respond to ads on Craigslist? Ventura, in New York. Prosecution, did you respond to ads on Backpage as well? Ventura, yes. Prosecution, who directed you to communicate with escorts? Defense, objection. Prosecution, who, if anyone? Defense, same objection. Assumes a fact not in evidence. Prosecution, did you ever reach out to escorts independently? Ventura, no. Did you ever not use an escort who arrived? Ventura, one couldn't perform, so Sean sent him on. Prosecution, what was a safe escort? Ventura, not a cop, and someone who'd not run and tell everyone about their experience with us. Prosecution, why not a cop? Ventura, I learned this whole situation was not legal. Defense, objection. Judge, jury will disregard that last answer. Prosecution, how did Cash get there? And here's the thing. A lot of times when things are said, there's a phrase that you can't unring the bell. So once it's been said, it's going to stick in their minds. And for them to now understand that she knew that it was illegal, that wasn't legal. And so they were worried about a cop not being there, establishes that everyone knew that what they were doing was not legal. The judge says the jury would disregard that answer, and they're not supposed to use that answer in their deliberation, but it's hard to unring that bell. It's hard not to hear that that's what she said. All right, so it says, how did the cash get there? The judge, security, or he brought it himself? Oh, Ventura, judge, security, or him brought it himself? Prosecution, the escort Dave, do you know his real name? Ventura, Clayton Howard. I know Clayton is somewhere trying to figure out his life right now because he done been bought up in the name in this Diddy trial. All right, who is this? And she shows the photo. And Ventura, she says, Daniel. Prosecution, what services did you use? Ventura, a dancer service. Prosecution, do you recognize Jules? Ventura, yes. In what city did you have freak-offs with Jules? Ventura. And New York, Los Angeles, and Vegas. And let's go back. I need y'all to go back and look at this. Add back to the stage. You see it. Transportation to engage in prostitution. So, according to the Mann Act, the Mann Act is also known as the White Slavery Traffic Act, is a U.S. federal law that criminalizing transporting someone across state lines for an immoral purpose with the primary focus on prostitution and human trafficking. It was initially intended to combat forced prostitution, but has a broad scope that has led to its use in various cases, including those involving consensual sexual activity and political persecution. Transportation to engage in prostitution is the Mann Act. Sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion is probably a statute under this Mann Act, or also known as the White Slave Traffic Act. Let's continue. Do you know his last name? Ventura? No. Who is this? They're showing her pictures. She says, I knew him as the Punisher. Prosecution. Did you use drugs at every freak off? Ventura. Yes. I need to disassociate and become emotionless. Prosecution. Who else used drugs at freak off? Ventura. Sean did. Sometimes the escort. Prosecution. What other drugs did you use? Ventura. Special K, GHB, and mushrooms. That's for ketamine. Mm. Prosecution. I'll read Sean's parts of this email. You read you. Ventura. When should I take the thing? When will you be there? Prosecution. Reading as Sean Combs. Pausing. You there? What did you mean? Ventura. Drugs. Prosecution. Reading as Sean Combs as Diddy. I took mine. I'm flying. Prosecution. What does he mean? Ventura. He's high. All right, let's read that again. So now I'm understanding what he's saying. So the prosecution said that I'll read Sean's part of this email and you read you. So Ventura reads, when should I take the thing? When will you be here? So the prosecution is pausing her and saying, what did you mean here? And Ventura said, I meant drugs. So then they said, they're reading as Diddy right now saying, I took mine. I'm flying. And so the prosecution stops her and asks her, what did he mean? And she said that he meant he's high. All right, let's continue. Prosecution. Why did you take more drugs? Ventura. Not to be present with the experience. Prosecution. Why? Because it was something I hated. Prosecution. How did you react to ecstasy and MDMA? Ventura. It could make me vomit. Prosecution. What would he say? Ventura. Continue. Prosecution. Did you want to continue to have intercourse when you vomit? Ventura. No. How did the GHB make you feel? Ventura. Drunk, tipsy. They ask about the cocaine. Ventura said, "It made my heart race. I'm not a huge fan." Prosecution asked her about mushrooms. Ventura said, "The walls come alive." So you're hot, you're sweaty, you're oily, it smells like urine and booty, and now vomit. Let's continue. And a side note, if you're taking something where the walls make you come alive, that might be something y'all might need to leave. Y'all need to leave wherever it's at because that's a mess. The judge says that we'll take a break. And so we're just about an hour behind. Okay. 4:15, she's back on the stand. She was back. The judge says you may continue. Prosecution. When drugs ran out, how did you know who to reach out to? Ventura. Sean would tell me. Prosecution. During the session, how would you know to move to the next step? Cassie. Sean. Prosecution. What happened after the escort finished on you? Sean would want to put Sean would want it put on his body in the next room. Did you do that? Ventura, I did. Where? Usually on his nipples. Did you want to do it? No. Baby, when I tell you they are fans out here. Prosecution. Oh, we are just 30 minutes behind. Okay. All right. So hold on, y'all. Let's read up to there. Cassie Ventura testified. This says Ventura explains how she found male escorts at Combs' direction. Cassie Ventura testified that Sean Diddy Combs tasked her with finding escorts for the freak-offs, and she noted that Combs had a very specific requirement for the men. Ventura said that she'd find escorts by responding to ads on Craigslist and Backpage at Combs' direction. The jury is now reviewing a text message conversation between Ventura and a man that she said would facilitate escorts. He would send her photos of the men they could hire, she said. I usually show them to Sean and see if that person was of interest for a freak off, Ventura said. Combs had to approve the escorts. I definitely had to show him. Hold on just one second because one of my mics is breaking up. So I just want to switch to another one. Give me one second. All right. Hold on. I see some questions. Yes, honey. Because from the testimony from the guy yesterday, he said that he was instructed to finish on her body. And so she's saying that after he finished on her body, she would go into the other room and then rub it all on him. I can believe that. I mean, because at some point you get tired of stuff. I mean, I can definitely believe that. Particularly when you're supposed to be working on an album and you have a 10 album deal, which is unheard of, and you're not really doing anything. But at this point, it was just like it was like prostitution. And again, he's getting in trouble because they're going across state lines. Rub it gives a whole new meaning to take that. Take that. I don't think Cassie is so innocent. And that is fair. That is definitely fair. But also maybe she lost her strategy. Either way is wrong. Yeah, and like I said, remember, and this is why I want it to be so important that we pull out the morality part of this all. Pull all this a morality part of it. Because let me show you this so we can be very clear. And you see what I've highlighted here. The Mann Act, also known as the White Slavery Traffic Act, is a U.S. federal law that criminalizes transporting someone across state lines for an immoral purpose, with a primary focus on prostitution and human trafficking. It was initially intended to combat forced prostitution, but has a broad scope that has led to its use in various cases, including including those involving consensual sexual activity and political persecution. So we can be on whatever moral high or low ground, but the law doesn't distinguish whether or not that. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that it wasn't consensual. It's saying that you crossed state lines in the point for them to have those free calls, for them to hire the escorts, for them to do it for the express purpose of them having the sexual to have the sex. According to the federal law, that is the Mann Act, that is illegal. So we can agree that she participated in this. But with the presence of drugs, with the presence of prostitutes, and again, we've got to see how Diddy's legal team is going to try to erase this or try to counteract this. But I don't think it has really anything to do with the morality of it. It's the fact that it is in federal law that it's wrong. And here's why it's so important, because here ignorance of the law is no defense. You can't say, "Well, I didn't know that it was illegal." It doesn't matter. You're supposed to follow the laws regardless if you know that they were legal or not. And if you are someone where your reputation, where your money and all these little different things are important to you, this is definitely a law that you need to make sure that you understand or know. And particularly if you have those proclivities that you all say that you all have, and you have a right to do so. No one is telling you that you don't have a right to do so. But interestingly enough, if y'all go across state lines, if y'all go out into the world with the expressed notion to go and to engage in prostitution, and I'm thinking about a particular segment of the male population that's running over to places like Colombia and Thailand because y'all like to be like Halle Berry in her role in Monster Ball. Y'all got to feel good. Y'all better understand and know. And this generation, you all love to get on the internet and tell everybody what you do, when you did it, how you did it, where you did it, with whom you did it to. Y'all better check it. Y'all better check. Y'all better understand what I'm trying. Understand what I'm putting down. Let's continue. How did you feel? Ventura, I was an object, being heavily objectified by men. Sometimes he would watch by FaceTime. Prosecution. Were some sessions recorded on your devices? Ventura, because they were there. So she's saying they were recorded because that's what they had to use to record it. Prosecution. If you saw them on your device, what would you do? Ventura. I would delete them. Prosecution. Why? Ventura. They were disgusted. I didn't want anyone to see them. Prosecution. Was Sean's device used sometimes? Ventura. Yes. I'd ask him to delete it. Prosecution. Did he? Ventura. I don't know. Prosecution. Did you ever leave a freak off before it was over? Ventura. Yes. At the Century City Intercontinental, I finally had a premiere coming up, and I didn't want to mess it up, but Sean hit me. Prosecution. At what point did Sean hit you? Ventura. Between sessions. Prosecution. So, okay. So now we understand from that this is the Century City Intercontinental incident in 2016. She was leaving because she was trying to get to a premiere. Because remember, back in 2015, she did a movie, and this is where we heard Michael B. Jordan's name being mentioned, that she was flirting with him. And this is how he couldn't get into the club and all this other stuff. So let's continue. Things are starting to click and click, 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 like in my brain now. So I finally had a premiere coming up, and I didn't want to mess it up, but Sean hit me. At what point did Sean hit you? Between sessions. All right, let's continue. Prosecution. What happened next? I got to the elevator. Next thing I knew, I was thrown to the ground. Prosecution. Who threw you? Sean. He grabbed me by my neck and my hoodie. Prosecution. Let me show you the video. And so they're playing the video for them. And so the prosecution asked them while they're playing the video, what are you doing? Ventura. Trying to use the hotel phone. And what is Sean doing? Ventura. Taking my phone and my bag. And so the judge says we'll break for the day. And so down here with the jury gone, judge, what about pool reporters seeing the videos? Prosecution, we oppose that, and Jane does too. Judge, I am provisionally denying any pool viewing. That's my reading of Maxwell book. All right, let's make sure that there is not anything else. Maxwell, the narrow prosecution. Okay. Don't need that. Oh. So let's go back to CNN, and we'll read up into what they have up to the end. And y'all, if y'all got any questions or y'all want to kind of banter around in the comments, y'all go ahead and fill those comics up so I can read it. Child. Tina, the stuff we have learned today, my gosh, my gosh. Let me finish reading the rest of this stuff, baby, because it is a mess. It is a mess. What we got, loyalty. Allegedly, Michael B. Jordan is connected to Lauren London too, allegedly. Well, I don't know really what she has to do with it, but I do remember him because he's mentioned as the actor He's mentioned as the actor, uh on the thing. He was mentioned as the actor in 2015. And if you watched any of my coverage of all this stuff, you remember that I reviewed a TMZ video where he was trying to get into the club, and then at first they wouldn't let him in, and then the people who were standing at the door, the guy comes out and he says, "Oh, Mr. Combs said it was okay to let you in." And then when he comes back to the door, he gets humiliated, and he's not in there. Yes, we do. Because, honey, today today was a day. Today I've learned so much. I mean, I had to have a small little rant because them fools was greasy, astrogliding, slipping and sliding, urinating, and funky messes in these folks' hotel rooms. Just a mess. He's connected to, again, he was, and let's be fair, that Hollywood is a small place and Black Hollywood is a smaller place. And he at that point in time was and probably still is an up and coming act. Well, he's not an up and coming actor. He is an actor, He's solidified as an actor. And so I'm quite sure that the ladies were trying to talk to him or anything like that. Now, back in the day, he didn't have as much. I don't think in 2015 he was probably more up and coming, because I think he got his big break in Fruitville Station, and then it just kind of went up from there. And then he got Black Panther, and then he got Creed, and now he has Sinners and all kinds of other things that he's done. He's a producer. He owns a production company. He's a director now. So now he's, he ain't a puppy. He a big dog. And so I'm quite sure while he was a puppy or, just grown thing, I'm quite sure these women liked him and they wanted to date him. So yes, he was connected. Now, was Lauren London connected to Diddy? Did she date Diddy? I wasn't aware of that. They were friends. Okay. Cause I was like, I don't remember anything, but it's okay. Cause I was gonna say, cause I don't remember hearing anything like that. But it says that people were reporting that she was dating him after Nipsey died, but they said that that wasn't true. But Michael B. Jordan is connected to Lauren London. I know that they were friends, and I know that she was in Just Mercy. Wasn't she in Just Mercy? No, Without Remorse. She was in Without Remorse. So Cassie and Lauren were friends, and so he, from what I understand, he had a flirtatious relationship with Cassie, and also Lori Harvey. Nip and Puff were cool too. Got you, got you, got you. So okay, okay. Child. Baby, when I tell you that this stuff right here, it's almost like 6 degrees. What is it? 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon. You remember there was a game like that many, many years ago? It's probably something else now. Now you're how are you connected to Puffy? And then because if you do that chart, you know how people do their family trees and charts, and they'll put this name here, and then all these branches will go out in front of it. I'm willing to bet you if you put Puffy up there with all of this these escapades and stuff like that, we would be surprised. Got you. Got you. Is it me? But haven't we noticed that the guys that Puffy are close to and have a relationship or a bond, and I'm not talking about sexual, I'm saying having a relationship or a bond with these guys that he genuinely has an affinity for, a friendship for. They are horizontal and 6 feet under. I mean, is it me? I'm not saying or making any predictions that he had anything to do with it. But I'm just saying, is it me that we noticed the people who he literally had affinity for? See, I think about the Heavy D's of the world. You all are describing Nip, Biggie. I know this is somebody else. Andre Harrell. Harrell, isn't that Andre Harrell? People who he says that he has great affinity for. Kim Porter. Is it me? It could be just me, y'all. It just could be me, but I've just noticed that. But let's continue with this, and then once we put this through, y'all, we will be through for the day because they are through at court. Uh, it says here, Cassie Ventura said that escorts were paid typically between $1,500 and $6,000 at the free go. I wonder who got the $6,000. Who got the $6,000? What were you doing to get that $6,000? She often handed them the money, although it was provided by Sean Diddy Combs, she said. Sometimes the cash would be brought to the locations by Combs security. The escorts were almost always men, with a few exceptions, according to Ventura. I don't know why this comes to my head. Certain things just pop in my head. Has anybody ever seen uh the Lilo and Stitch movie, the first one, the original movie? And you remember when she went to the pound and she was to purchase Stitch for $2? And you remember how Nani was handing the money to the lady, and what's her name said, "No, no, 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 I want to pay for him. I want to." Lilo says, "I want to pay for him." So Nani gives the money to Lilo, and then Lilo gives the money to her. Let's be real. Is it me? Because there's no way in the world that you're going to make me believe that at that time Cassie had all that money. Because remember, she had a 10 album. Tina, are you still here? Have you heard about a 10 album deal? Is that, do people do that? Because that seems outrageous to me. And she only put out one album and had a 10 album deal with Bad Boy. Let's continue. Some escorts participated in freak offs in multiple states. And remember that I read that off to you when we were talking about the Mann Act, and we went over all of this stuff. So I'm going to show y'all again. These are his charges. This right here, this sex trafficking by force, coercion, fraud or coercion, and this transportation to engage in prostitution, this transportation to engage in prostitution is coming out of the Mann Act. So it says here some escorts participated in freak offs in multiple states. Who paid for them to get there? How did they get there? And I don't know if that's is as important as we making it seem, because again, when we go back and read what the Mann Act says, transportating someone across state lines, and I know y'all are probably sick of me saying it, but I'm gonna keep saying it until y'all get it in your heads. Transporting someone across state lines for an immoral purpose with a primary focus on prostitution and human trafficking. It was initially intended to combat forced prostitution, but has a broad scope that has led to its use in various cases, including those involving consensual sexual activity and political persecution. Prosecution Emily Johnson is showing photos of some of the escorts who participated in the freak-offs. Some of those pictures participated in freak-offs in multiple states. Cassie Ventura testified. Ventura said that the escorts travel was sometimes coordinated by her. Oops, there it is. Sometimes by a travel agent for Sean Diddy Combs' company, and sometimes by the escort itself. Oops, ain't looking good. Ain't looking good. Ventura says she took all kinds of drugs to disassociate herself and numb herself. So we definitely heard her say that. We definitely are very aware that that happened. Ventura asked to take a break. They took a 10-minute break. She's back on the stand. Attorney explains why Ventura's testimony about freak-offs in multiple states is important. Let's get to it. Prosecutors are trying to use Cassie Ventura's testimony to prove to the jury that the crime Sean Diddy Combs is accused of happened in multiple states, one lawyer says. Because remember, I'm thinking that defense is trying to say, hey, he's a hothead. He's all of these different things. And he has a very robust sex life, but that's not a problem. Your problem comes in that Mann Act. And I know y'all sick of me. I know y'all sick of me. But I need y'all to see this. I need y'all to put this in your head. I need you. Oh, if you're wanting to have a guest, Blue, let me know. But I need y'all to get this through y'all's heads. This is what's getting y'all caught up. And if we're going to be in spaces and be in places where we are doing and making all of this money and vibing and stuff like this, again, I keep saying sexual discipline is important. Regardless if you have the proclivities, whatever that, I can say it one day and I can't say it the other day. Okay. In order for the case to be brought in federal court, prosecutors have to be able to show that the alleged crimes occurred in multiple states. Combs' former girlfriend testified that some escorts participated in freak-offs in multiple states. And the prosecution is probably going to call those people, one or two or a couple of people, to the stand to figure that out. And that's the question that I asked yesterday when that's what I talked about yesterday. You remember when the security guard said he saw a man in the room, but he didn't know who it was and nobody asked the question. And then when we had the Mr. Phillips come on and he talked about where he had sex and things like that with them, he was basically in New York. He didn't say that he went to any other place, but he was in New York. So I am wondering if they're going to call some of these people who participated to verify that somebody took them across lines, or do they have records showing that Combs's Bad Boy Enterprises or KK or whoever it was provided these people with transportation via with the plane ticket or via the jet or anything like that. Listen, I have, again, this is what I do. This is how part of my channel, besides anything like that. But at some point, if I'm going to do this, there's got to be some education that we have to be educated and educated together and to understand. So y'all don't get, folks don't get caught up, because you've got this Mann Act that's a federal law sitting out here ready to get y'all. Because again, you all get on this internet and tell everything you do, when you do it, how you do it, where you do it, why you do it, and with whom you do it with. In order for the federal court to have jurisdiction over this, or prosecutors or U.S. attorneys, they have to be able to show there was either enticing, harboring, transporting, or advertising, and it traveled in interstate commerce, Bianchi said. Enticement is where people travel between multiple states, he said. Ventura said freak-offs were held at both her and Combs' houses, in addition to hotel cities in New York City, Miami, Los Angeles, Atlanta, Las Vegas, Ibiza, and Turks and Caicos. But y'all love to put out here on the internet, we outside. We out here. Ventura described the patterns that most freak-offs followed. She said they followed a similar pattern. It was established pretty early, so there was planning in doing the freak-offs that Sean enjoyed a lot of conversations and describing, she said, of her former boyfriend. Ventura said a freak-off would typically start with oil and touching. After that, she said participating would engage in oral sex before progressing to intercourse. It was like a gradual process. It sounds almost like a ballet. Ventura said that she would often ask Combs if they could move to the next act in the pattern. She said she wanted to speed the process. He was controlling the situation, he was directing it like a play. And so she's talking here. I never wanted anyone to ever see me like that, Ventura says. She asked Combs to delete the videos. He wouldn't delete the videos. She said that she would keep old devices and things like that because of the fact she would keep old devices and things like that because she didn't want anything to get out to anybody. Okay, let's see. All right. They're talking about blue dolphin ecstasy. Ecstasy is also known as Molly or MDMA, is part of the class of a psychoactive drug that produces experiences of emotional communion, relatedness, and openness. Some users report of having less of an urge to eat, drink, or sleep, contributing its use to a party drug. Now I'm kind of understanding why they were up all night, 72-hour stretches and whatnot. In March 2016, Cassie Ventura testified that she tried to leave a freak off before it was over at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles or Century City. So she's describing the 2016 hotel altercation. She said it got violent and I chose to leave, Ventura said. Sean followed me into the hallway by the elevators. He grabbed me up, threw me on the ground, kicked me, and tried to drag me back in the room and took my stuff. She also testified that she had a premiere that she was trying to get to. And he understood that she was trying to get to the premiere. And so she said he dotted her in the eye. And this is why her eye was purple, where the security guard testified that he saw that purple eye. The jury is now seeing text between Ventura and Combs. The jury just viewed a text thread between Sean Diddy Combs and Cassie Ventura from March 5th. Remember, the surveillance footage that showed the altercation at the Intercontinental Hotel was also dated March 5th, 2016. Ventura said that the conversation happened just before she had her big movie premiere. She testified that Sean wanted to plan a freak off and she didn't want Combs to be angry if she said no, but also she didn't want to compromise herself before the premiere. Ventura said that Combs hit her and she ran out as fast as I could. Cassie Ventura says she was having a freak off in the hotel room with Sean Diddy Combs and an escort where the 2016 altercation happened at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles. I'm not sure what happened, but I got hit by Sean and I had a black eye. And at that point, all I could think about was getting out of there safely, she said. I had my premiere. I didn't want to mess it up, so I left. She said the escort was in a separate room in the hotel suite when Combs hit her. After it happened, she said she grabbed her belongings and ran out as fast as I could. Ventura ran out of the room when Combs was in the shower, barefoot with her sneakers still in her bag. It was faster that way, she testified. The jury is viewing the hotel surveillance footage again. Ventura testifies that Combs beat her too many times to count. After the jury was shown the hotel surveillance video showing Sean Diddy Combs assaulting Cassie Ventura, prosecutor Emily Johnson asked Ventura how many other times had Combs had beat her in that way. She said, too many to count. I don't know, Ventura testified. Are there occasions when you tried to fight back when Sean hit you, Johnson asked. Ventura said no. And court is done for the day. And so they have a little analysis of thing. And so I will be doing some recap. I'll do a recap video from here. So tell me what y'all are thinking about this. Today was a lot. Today was a lot. Hold on, y'all. All right. Y'all, this was a lot. This was more than what I had uh, thought. I had my ideas of what I thought this freak off would entail. And my ideas, if you were probably in my mind according to what's going on with these little freak offs, is probably prudish in nature. And I own that. Because I'm selfish. The crown is heavy. I don't know if I could be in there with another woman with my man. I just don't know if I could do anything like that. I don't know. I don't know. I learned nothing about this trial so far. This stuff we already knew. The case is about Cassidy. Yeah, and true, we knew again. If you read the lawsuit that she filed, this is where the prosecution is getting all of their information. And that's just being real. The prosecution is getting all that information from there. So we haven't learned anything bombshell or new in regards to Cassie, but we don't know anything about uh what is this victim number 2 and this Mia lady. I don't have any access to any of that information because I know that there's so many lawsuits out with Diddy, and I was just trying to kind of keep it to the earlier ones, is which I thought that the prosecution was pulling their information from. So I don't know anything about this Mia. I don't know who this person is, victim number 3 that they can't find. But we do know that these are women that he had had past relationships with. So I'm curious to see who these people are. Uh, I think we would learn more information. Now, the only thing that I learned that in regards to all of this is that they was some greased up, shiny, rolling in a baby pool full of baby oil, 1,000 bottles, having Astroglide lube, taking all kinds of stuff with drugs and everything. I know them people who hated to see them coming in that hotel room. Now that's what I know. But I think you're right, Sheed. I think we're going to find out, or at least find something else. I don't think we're going to find out anything groundbreaking, but we are at least going to find out that, or have to see if the prosecution is trying to show a pattern. Again, I think it's going to be interesting to hear or to read the back and forth between uh Cassie and Diddy's legal team. And I think again, so we had, like I said, we hadn't learned anything groundbreaking today, but we learned enough. We learned about proclivities, and I hope that we all were educated about the Mann Act. And I hope if you all watched the stream, not only were you entertained, but that you learned something, and that if you hadn't learned anything, again, I'm gonna repeat it. This sexual discipline is very key for you all to matriculate through this world, and also to understand that there is a such thing as a Mann Act. So for those of you all that like to travel via different states or travel out of the country, and particularly for you young men who like to go down to Colombia and like to go over there to Thailand and go over here to Mexico, and then you put all your escapades online, telling us who, what, when, where, how, and why you're doing what you're doing. Please understand, you come back here, you could uh you could be arrested for violating the Mann Act. Because that sounds like the law doesn't care anything about if it was consensual or if it wasn't. It was the fact that you did it. All right, people. What'd you say? I'm gonna go buy some baby oil, 20 bottles. Child, they went through that in one session. 10 to 20 bottles. You ain't doing nothing. And the average person, I saw somewhere where they said like the average household, the average person, it usually takes you years. You know how when people buy those big bottles of Vaseline and they say it usually takes you years to get through that whole bottle? The average person is not going through baby oil like this in 72 hours. People go through baby oil in 5 or 6 months. You can have a bottle in your home for months, years almost. So we do learn that defense attorney Anna Estevallo is expected to cross-examine uh, Cassie Ventura. And court is going to start at about 9:30 a.m. I like the fact that if we start about 1 o'clock, it takes us about 3 or 4 hours to go through this, and by that time, we be ending court, and we'll be able to just kind of went through without any breaks or anything like that, or having, well, I take a break, but I'm just saying very long periods of time like we had yesterday, where I filled it in with reading the lawsuit. So I think that was fine. But again, we're going to start tomorrow around 1 o'clock. Probably. Well, no, tomorrow we won't start at all because I have a long-standing appointment that I have to get done. So I probably won't. I probably won't start till, it probably won't be but a recap that evening, tomorrow evening, and then yeah, it probably will be a recap. And then again on Thursday, it will be the same way. I'd have to do a recap in the evening because tomorrow and Thursday I have appointments that I can't miss. So I won't be able to sit and do this. But come Friday, if they have court on Friday, we will be back here on Friday at 1 o'clock. Which will be 1 o'clock, which will be 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So it'll take us that much time to go through here. All right, let's see what's going on. Real talk, I got a trial size of baby oil for like who goes through I hear what you're talking about. Who goes through baby oil like that? No one goes through baby oil like that. No one goes through Vaseline like that. In 72 hours, you done been through 10 bottles. Child, a mess. All right. So I'll see you tomorrow at a recap tomorrow. And like I said, it's going to be in the evening time at night because like I said, so tomorrow's Wednesday and then going into Thursday, I will definitely be occupied. And so I won't be able to read Well, I'll read it that evening. We can go over that evening. And wonderful thing about that is it'll be through the night and we'll have an opportunity for all of that to marinate. But anyway, y'all, we do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. And make sure before you leave, you all hit that heart, that like button to let me know that you all were here. It helps me with my engagement, regardless if I'm on Twitter, regardless if I'm on YouTube or over there at Twitch. Y'all, please hit that like button. All right, people. And as always, bye bye.